Chapter 4306, Rough Skin and Thick Flesh. Just as Hei Shinjo was thinking about it, she heard the short fatty shout in surprise, "Ha!" Another one came, "We're rich." Yun Chujo looked up and saw another three-eyed ghost wolf running over in a panic. Sha Wuhan and the others naturally wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity, so they immediately went to surround it. Yun Chujo slowly followed behind with butt face, thinking about the next plan in her heart. First, naturally, it was to increase her own elemental energy. Without strength, everything would be for naught. Second, it was to seize power. Next, it was to increase her strength. As long as she had the primitive accumulation, she believed that with her means, her power would soar like a snowball. After thinking about it, it was better to cultivate first. Moreover, only after cultivating to the 9th level of the origin realm would one have the chance to enter the spirit soul world to look for the gigolo. Of course, the gigolo might come back very soon. With the gigolo, it would be even easier. Yun Chujo was still in a daze when she heard the short fatty exclaim, "Little Jiu, be careful." Yun Chujo looked up and saw that the three-eyed ghost wolf had actually jumped out of the encirclement and pounced towards her. It was already too late for Sha Wuhan and the others to come and save her. Their hearts sank. It was over. Little Jiu would be seriously injured even if she didn't die. Sha Wuhan was so regretful that his intestines were about to turn green. If he had known earlier, he wouldn't have brought her here. However, it was too late to say anything now. Just as everyone was worried, they saw the earthy yellow puppy beside Yun Chujo barking at the three-eyed ghost wolf. The short fatty grinned. "You're a mixed breed, a dog and a puppy. What's the use of barking anymore?" Could it be that the three-eyed ghost wolf was afraid? However, the next moment, the short and fat man staggered because he saw the three-eyed ghost wolf, which was dozens of times the size of a khaki pup, lying on the ground with its front legs. To be precise, it was lying on the ground. Before he could recover, he saw Yun Chujo take out a short knife and stab the eye on the three-eyed ghost wolf's forehead. The short and fat man's head buzzed. She was courting death. Initially, the three-eyed ghost wolf had inexplicably collapsed on the ground. She only needed to dodge and jump away, and they would be able to rush to rescue her. Now, she was courting death by attacking the three-eyed ghost wolf. She was really courting death. She was only in the first layer of Yuanchu, and the three-eyed ghost wolf could send her flying with a single claw. If this wasn't courting death, then what was? The situation was basically the same as what the short fatty had expected, with only a slight deviation. Hei Shinjo was indeed sent flying, but the short knife in her hand had also pierced the eye on the three-eyed ghost wolf's forehead. The three-eyed ghost wolf roared furiously and tried to attack Yun Chujo, who was lying in the distance again. However, it was stopped by Sha Wuhan and the others. As the three-eyed ghost wolf's vital part had been stabbed, it was killed by Sha Wuhan and the others not long after. However, the others were not happy. That was because they saw the khaki puppy surrounding little Jio's corpse and whimpering softly. It was over. Little Jio might already be dead. Just as everyone's faces were filled with grief, they saw Yun Chujo slowly stand up. It looked like nothing had happened. How was this possible? Not to mention her, even Sha Wuhan had suffered quite a serious injury from that hit. How could she be fine? Under everyone's astonished gazes, Yun Chujo slowly walked over and said self-deprecatingly, "I don't have any other good points, but my skin is rough and my flesh is thick, so I'm more resistant to being beaten." Chapter 4307 was quite fruitful. Sha Wuhan and the others were dumbstruck. How could this work? No wonder little Nine, an orphan girl, could live safely until now. It turned out that her body was so strong. And that little puppy of hers didn't look simple either. They had really underestimated her. The short and fat man grinned and said, "Little Nine, it seems that second brother has really underestimated you. Not to mention, you were really quick when you stabbed the three-eyed ghost wolf just now. You are really good material to be a hunter." The others also echoed. Yun Chujo curled the corners of her mouth and said, brothers, if you want to praise me, we have plenty of time to do so when we return to the camp. Now, we should seize the time to hunt a few more high-level origin beasts. Don't waste this good opportunity. Everyone felt that what she said made sense. Although they did not know what exactly was going on, today was indeed a good opportunity. Not to mention other things. The 2 three-eyed ghost wolves that they had already captured were enough to pay for the next month's human head fee. If they hunted a few more, their lives would be greatly improved. Immediately, everyone continued to search for origin beasts. Yun Chujo continued to follow behind them at a leisurely pace. But face, you're good. You scared that three-eyed ghost wolf with just 2 barks, Yun Chujo said with a faint smile on the corner of her mouth. But Face said smugly, little fairy, no matter how bad I am still an ancient fierce beast. If I wasn't afraid of being too eye-catching, I wouldn't even need to bark. Just a little pressure from me could scare that unlucky thing to death. Yun Chujo curled her lips. She naturally knew what Butt Face was thinking. This guy was probably afraid that she would despise him for being useless, so he showed off today. Scheming dog. When it was almost evening, Sha Wuhan said to the excited crowd, although it's a rare opportunity, once it gets dark, it's too dangerous inside. Let's go back to the camp. Hearing this, Yun Chujo looked up to Sha Wuhan even more. He was able to resist the greed in his heart and knew when to stop. Sha Wuhan was really not bad. Although the short fatty and the others felt that it was a pity, they respected Sha Wuhan very much. Therefore, even though they were unwilling, they still followed Sha Wuhan back to the camp. As soon as they arrived at the camp, Tu Lai brought his men over. He said mockingly, TSK, I thought you guys died inside. You really want money but not your lives. Looking at you guys, you must have obtained quite a good harvest. Could it be that you've captured a rank 6 origin beast? The short fatty was about to say something when Sha Wuhan said indifferently, you don't have to worry. We still have to prepare dinner. Please go back. Tu Lai was hit by a soft nail, and his eyes revealed a bit of viciousness. However, he did not say anything and left with his people. The originally good mood of everyone was instantly dimmed by his interference. Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. In her heart, she was really curious about what on earth Sha Wuhan had that Tu Lai was so persistent. However, everyone had their own secrets. If Sha Wuhan did not say anything, she naturally would not ask. She smiled and said, Big brother, can we eat a big piece of meat today? Sha Wuhan adjusted his mood and said in a clear voice, naturally, not only today, but from today onwards, we will eat meat every meal. The reason why Sha Wuhan had such confidence was because they had hunted a total of 10 6th and 3 5th grade origin beasts today. Even if they could only hunt 3rd and 4th grade origin beasts from now on, they would be able to hold on for at least half a year. Chapter 4308, Melting City. Everyone happily began to prepare dinner. When the aroma of the stewed meat wafted out, everyone could not help but swallow their saliva. There was no other way. Eating steamed buns and wild vegetables every day was simply too gluttonous. After everyone had a full meal, the short fatty's eyes reddened as he said, it must be that Lord Ghost Ancestor saw that we were suffering too much, so he gave us this opportunity. As the short fatty spoke, he knelt on the ground with a plop and started kowtowing reverently. Sha Wuhan and the rest also knelt on the ground. The 7-foot-tall man's eyes reddened. When a person was in despair, a small bit of luck was enough to make them remember it for the rest of their lives. Hei Xinjiu rolled her eyes speechlessly. Since they all knelt down, she could only kneel down as well. It was very awkward for her to kneel down and thank herself, all right? In the next few days, although Sha Wuhan and the rest could not enter to hunt due to the blockade of the other hunting groups, they still managed to hunt quite a number of Tier 3 and Tier 4 origin beasts. Everyone's food standards had obviously improved. It was either stewed meat or meat porridge. Everyone was so happy that they could not close their mouths. That morning, Sha Wuhan said to everyone, take a day off today. I will go to the market town to sell the origin beasts and exchange them for some rice noodles. No one had any objections. If they directly used the origin beast to pay for the head fee, they would lose a lot. They might as well go to the town and sell it themselves. Yun Chujil owed her son and said, "Big brother, I will go with you." Sha Wuhan agreed without any hesitation. He felt that it was Yun Chujil who brought them good luck. Moreover, he reckoned that she had never been to a decent town before. It would be good to bring her around. Thus, Sha Wuhan brought Yun Chujil out of the camp and headed towards the largest town nearby, Melt City. Although there were still a few small towns nearby, the price of a 6th-rank origin beast was not cheap, and they had quite a number of them, so they could only forego the short distance to go to a city like Melt City. The two of them did not have any transportation tools, so they could only rely on their 2 legs to travel. After walking for 4 hours, they finally arrived at Melt City. Although Melt City was a relatively large town, it was also dilapidated in Yun Chuji's eyes. However, no matter what, there were 2 rows of shops on both sides of the road, so it was not too bad. Sha Wuhan brought Yun Chujio into a shop that specialized in purchasing origin beasts. After negotiating the price, they sold all the origin beasts to this shop for a total of more than 200,000 yuan. Yun Chujio originally thought that Sha Wuhan would be ecstatic when he saw so much yuan for the first time. However, she discovered that although he was a little happy, he did not have much of an emotional fluctuation. Yun Chujio had a rough guess in her heart. Sha Wuhan's background was probably not bad. It was just that he had gone through some unforeseen circumstances and ended up in this state. "Little Jiu, keep these yuan coins. You deserve it." Sha Wuhan transferred 15,000 yuan coins to Yun Chujio without any explanation. There were many people on the street, so Yun Chujio couldn't refuse. Besides, she really had a use for money, so she smiled and said, "Thank you, big brother. Let's go to the shop in front and take a look." The two entered a grocery store. There were quite a lot of customers inside. The shop assistant saw that the clothes on Yun Chujio and Sha Wuhan were very tattered, so he didn't bother with them and let them see for themselves. Yun Chujio wanted to buy a few ghost talismans. According to Butt Face, the talismans in the ghost realm were called ghost talismans, but the method of drawing ghost talismans was firmly controlled by the aristocratic families and the royal family, not to mention these commoners. Even commoners didn't have the chance to learn. Chapter 4309, Ghost Talismans. Yun Chujio had always been very confident. She felt that if she bought a few ghost talismans and went back to study them, she should be able to learn them even if no one taught her. However, she didn't know if there were any ghost talismans in this grocery store. She cleared her throat and asked the staff, "Staff, do you have any ghost talismans in your store?" The moment Yun Chujio's words left her mouth, the entire store fell into a dead silence. Everyone looked at her as if they were looking at an idiot. Yun Chujio was puzzled. Did she say something amazing? Why were all of them looking like they had seen a ghost? Just as this fellow was in a daze, Sha Wuhan grabbed her sleeve and dragged her out of the shop without any explanation. At the same time, the people in the shop burst into laughter. "Ha ha ha, that ugly freak actually wants to buy ghost talismans?" I'm dying of laughter. Yeah, where did this idiot come from? Buy ghost talismans? Not to mention that there are no ghost talismans for sale in the base domain. Even if there are, can she afford them? Hey Shinjo cursed Butt Face, who was in the origin beast bag. Butt Face, didn't you say that there are ghost talismans for sale in the base domain? Give me an explanation. Butt Face said weakly, "When I was in the ghost domain, there were indeed people who sold them. Who knew that they would be gone now? It's not my fault." Yun Chujio continued to teach Butt Face a lesson. Sha Wuhan asked in a low voice, "Little Jiu, why did you buy ghost talismans?" Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. "I heard that ghost talismans are very powerful, so I used them to protect myself." Sha Wuhan shook his head. "You grew up alone, so it's no wonder you didn't know about ghost talismans. Although ghost talismans are powerful, they are also very expensive, so there are no ghost talismans sold in the base domain. Some people can buy one or two from other channels, but unless it's a life-threatening situation, no one will use them. Yun Chuzhou said a few words to Sha Wuhan perfunctorily, then frowned slightly. She originally wanted to use the ghost talismans to quickly increase her strength, but it seemed that she had to think long and hard. The two of them bought a lot of rice, flour, oil, and other items from other shops, then returned to the camp. When they arrived at the camp, it was already evening, and the sky was gradually darkening. However, what they did not expect was that Tu Lai and the others would greet them with malicious smiles, while the short fatty and the others were tied up, their faces bruised and swollen. Sha Wuhan flew into a rage, asking sternly, Tu Lai, what do you mean? Tu Lai replied with a fake smile, Sha Wuhan, I don't have the patience to continue playing with you, so today, either you hand over the items to me, or I'll kill them. It's your choice. Tu Lai did not want to gamble at first, but it just so happened that a hunter from the Fierce Tiger hunting group also went to Melt City today. He just happened to see Sha Wuhan selling a lot of Tier 6 origin beasts, and when he came back, he told Tu Lai about this matter. When Tu Lai heard this, he could not sit still. He originally thought that he could use the human head fee to force Sha Wuhan, so he did not plan to take the risk. However, now that Sha Wuhan actually had money, he could only take the risk. Tu Lai, quickly release him, or else I will destroy that thing, Sha Wuhan said coldly. Tu Lai sneered, this move of yours used to be useful to me, but it's useless now. I'm going all out today. If you want to destroy it, then destroy it. In any case, if you destroy the thing, these 5 people and the 2 of you will all die. The short fatty and the others' mouths were gagged. Although they struggled with all their might, they could not make a sound. However, their intention was obvious. They wanted Sha Wuhan to ignore their lives and leave quickly. However, how could Sha Wuhan abandon them? Chapter 43:10 The item in Sha Wuhan's hands. Sha Wuhan knew that he had been forced into a dead end. Regardless of whether he handed over the item or not, he was afraid that he would be doomed today. At this moment, Yun Chuzhou said weakly, Brother Sha, I'm just a servant. This is the matter of your wolf hunting squad. Don't drag me into it. Hurry up and ask them to release me. The Fierce Tiger hunting squad members immediately laughed out loud. This ugly freak was really realistic. However, it was also true that nothing was more important than life. Sha Wuhan was slightly puzzled. He felt that Yun Chuzhou was not such a person. However, at this point in time, one had to live. Hence, he said to Tu Lai, let her go first. Otherwise, I'll turn around and leave. With my skills, you won't be able to stop me. Tu Lai's eyes flickered as he weighed the pros and cons in his heart. After all, she was just an ugly freak. It didn't matter if he let her go. Hence, he waved his hand and the Fierce Tiger hunting group made an opening. Yun Chuzhou ran away as if there was a dog chasing after her. Sha Wuhan heard Yun Chuzhou whisper a word in his ear before she left, delay. However, what was the use of delaying for a while? Tu Lai ignored Yun Chuzhou, who had quickly disappeared. Instead, he said to Sha Wuhan, are you going to hand it over or not? The veins on Sha Wuhan's forehead bulged. His eyes were bloodshot. Whether he handed it over or not, he would die. Moreover, Tu Lai could not let the others go like he had let little Joe go. This time, he was determined to get that thing. Sha Wuhan recalled what Yun Chuzhou had said before. Now, he could only make a last resort. Hence, he said, this matter is of great importance. Give me an hour to think about it. Otherwise, I will fight you to the death. Tu Lai thought that they were now like fish in a barrel. He was not afraid that he would play any tricks, so he agreed. Time passed quickly. An hour was almost up. Sha Wuhan let out a long sigh in his heart. Forget it. No matter what, he had to save the lives of the short fatty and the others first. Tu Lai, I can give you the item, and even my life can be at your disposal. However, you have to swear to the ghost ancestor that you will let the 5 of them leave, and that you will not pursue them. Tu Lai nodded. Yes, I promise you. Tu Lai immediately swore a poison oath, but he laughed coldly in his heart. He would not pursue and kill these 5 people, because they had already been poisoned, and they would not be able to live even if they wanted to. This was also the reason why he had shut the mouths of the short fatty and the others. Sha Wuhan had never thought that Tu Lai would be so vicious. Seeing that Tu Lai had already sworn a poison oath, he took out an old sheepskin scroll from his storage ring. Tu Lai's eyes immediately lit up. As expected, Willow did not lie to him. Sha Wuhan actually had such a priceless treasure. Tu Lai immediately impatiently wanted to snatch the sheepskin scroll from Sha Wuhan's hands, however, he heard someone shout, Tu Lai, how dare you? With such a good thing, you actually want to hide it by yourself. You're not taking our regiment commander seriously. Tu Lai was shocked. He looked up and immediately staggered. He saw that the person who came was actually a member of the Hurricane Hunting Group's 1st Division, and it was the small leader who was responsible for collecting their head fee. Although Tu Lai was surprised why he suddenly came, he did not dare to offend him. He hurriedly said in fear and trepidation, Master Shi, why are you here? The small leader snorted coldly, if it wasn't for someone reporting it, if it wasn't for our regiment commander's foresight and letting me spy on you in the dark, I really would have let you get away with it. You really have a lot of guts. You actually want to keep the good stuff for yourself. Do you want to die? Chapter 43:11 Audacious Tu Lai's legs went weak and he almost knelt on the ground. He said in fear and trepidation, Master Shi, you've misunderstood. I forced Sha Wuhan to hand over the thing because I wanted to give it to Commander Ji. Since you're here, it'll trouble you to give this thing to Commander Ji. The leader frowned and sized up Tu Lai. Is what you said true? It's absolutely true. Even if you lend me some courage, I wouldn't dare to deceive you. Tu Lai's heart was like a beeping dog. Damn it, who leaked the news? If he knew, he would definitely kill him. The leader took the sheepskin scroll from Shi Wuhan's hand and flipped it a few times before storing it into his storage ring. Tu Lai's heart was aching to death. He had stared at this piece of fat meat for so long, but in the end, he had made a wedding dress for someone else. He was so depressed that he wanted to bang his head against the wall. The little leader said again, tie him up and hand over those people to me. I'll bring them back and let the regiment commander deal with them. Tu Lai was a little puzzled. Sir, these people, before he could finish his words, the little leader said impatiently, just do what I tell you to do. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Since this person has this thing on him, the regiment commander will naturally interrogate him properly. Tu Lai smiled apologetically and said, yes, yes. Sir, you are truly thoughtful. However, I have fed them the soul-severing powder. This is the antidote. Do you need me to send someone to escort them for you? The little leader said even more impatiently, do you think that I am the only one who has come? They are waiting in front. Don't dawdle. Hurry up and hand them over to me. Tu Lai heard that there was still someone waiting for him and immediately dispelled his last thought. He immediately tied Sha Wuhan up, tied the 6 people into a string, and handed them over to the leader. The leader held a yuan coin in his hand and tossed it a few times. Then, he said with a fake smile, Tu Lai, do you understand what I mean by this matter? Tu Lai immediately understood what he meant. He immediately said obsequiously, Master Shi, this 100,000 yuan is just a small token of my appreciation. Please accept it. The little leader nodded. You are quite tactful. Don't worry. I will put in a few good words for you in front of the regiment commander. Tu Lai said a few more words of gratitude. Only then did the little leader smile and leave with Sha Wuhan and the others. When the little leader, Sha Wuhan, and the others disappeared, Old Five said with some uncertainty, Boss, why do I feel that something is not right? Although that Lord Shi's aura is very strong, it seems that his elemental energy level is only at the first layer of the origin realm. Tu Lai glared at him and said snappily, he probably used some treasure to hide his spiritual energy level. Moreover, who is so daring to pretend to be a member of a regiment? Does he not want to live anymore? Lao Wu was scolded so much that he shrank his neck and didn't dare to say anything. However, he still felt that something was wrong. On the other side, the small leader saw that no one was chasing him. He took the cloth from the mouths of the short fatty and the others, then stuffed the antidote into their mouths and cut off their ropes. Sha Wuhan and the others were confused. What did he mean by this? The leader said, don't just stand there. Little Jiu. I don't have time to explain to you now. Hurry up and leave. Are you waiting to be chased by Tu Lai? Sha Wuhan and the others were dumbfounded. Little Jiu. He was Little Jiu. How was this possible? Not only did she pretend to be a member of a group, but she also extorted 100,000 yuan from Tu Lai. This was simply outrageous. Chapter 43:12 Explanation. However, that little leader's surname Shi was very similar in size to Little Jiu. They were all of the strong type, but where did Little Jiu get the clothes? Yun Chujiu ignored Sha Wuhan and the others' puzzled gazes. She estimated that Tu Lai would not react for a while. Moreover, even if the matter was exposed, he might not have the courage to report it, because he could not explain why he had not reported it to the First Division previously. However, it could not be ruled out that other people had informed the First Division in order to get rid of Tu Lai or to curry favor with the First Division. Therefore, it was best for them to leave the area under the control of the First Division. Thinking of the sheepskin scroll in her storage ring, her eyes flashed. She did not expect Sha Wuhan to actually have a book on drawing ghost talismans in his hands. Although it was only some beginner-level ghost talismans, it was still considered a heaven-defying treasure in the base region. No wonder that Tu Lai had always been afraid of taking things by force. Everyone ran for a few hundred li in one go. Only when they could no longer run did they stop. Bai Li and the others ran for a few hundred li. At this time, it was already the second half of the night. Yun Chujiu found a corner and transformed into her previous appearance. The reason why she dared to pretend to be that little leader was because she was certain that there was no one in the camp who was 5 levels higher than her, thus, no one would be able to discern her true gender. Yun Chujiu returned to the team. The short and fat man circled Yun Chujiu a few times before giving her a thumbs up. Little Jiu, I didn't expect you to actually have such a skill. Second brother can be considered to be in awe of you. Yun Chujiu smiled and said, it's nothing much. The main thing is that the one with the surname Shi and my physique are very similar. Otherwise, I wouldn't dare to pretend to be him. Sha Wuhan raised his eyebrows. Little Jiu, where did you get the clothes from Division 1? Yun Chujiu laughed dryly as if she was a little embarrassed. Well, didn't I pick up a 3-eyed ghost wolf's corpse before? I also picked up a storage ring. The clothes were found inside. As Yun Chujiu spoke, she took out an old storage ring. One look and one could tell that it was quite old. Only then did everyone feel relieved. They guessed that the people from Division 1 might have died in the thorny forest for some reason, so they let Little Jiu take advantage of them. The short and fat man clicked his tongue in wonder. Little Jiu, let's not talk about anything else. You're really bold. Not only did you deceive them, but you even extorted 100,000 yuan from that Tu Lai. Aren't you afraid that hell expose you? Yun Chujiu curled her lips. When that Tu Lai saw the people from the First Division, he was so scared that his claws were numb. How would he dare to question me? Moreover, there's a saying that goes, a thief has a guilty conscience. He hurriedly wanted to clear himself. How would he have the time to question whether I'm real or not? When the short fatty and the others heard this, they were even more impressed with He Xinjiu. Only Sha Wuhan's heart moved. Little Jiu's thoughts were so meticulous. Was she really just an orphan girl? However, she did not know many things and seemed to be really isolated from the world. Could it be that she was born with such intelligence? Also, the short fatty and the rest did not notice. He noticed that although her elemental energy level was at the first layer of the origin realm previously, the pressure was very strong. How did she do it? Yun Chujo noticed Sha Yuan's sizing up gaze. She knew in her heart that he was interested in probing her. However, it did not matter. After these few days of observation, although Sha Yuan's thoughts were meticulous, his character was not bad. At this moment, the short fatty said, "Big brother, little Jiu, what should we do next?" Yun Chujo heard the short fatty's words and the corners of her mouth curled up slightly. In the past, the short fatty would only ask for Siche Wuhan's opinion, but now he was asking her as well. This meant that she already had a certain status in their hearts. Chapter 43:13, Making Ghost Talismans. Sha Wuhan had yet to speak when Yun Chujo stuffed the sheepskin scroll into his hands. "Big brother, I almost forgot. Keep this properly." Although Sha Wuhan had been thinking about this sheepskin scroll before, he was too embarrassed to ask Yun Chujo for it. Now that she had taken the initiative to return it, he let go of the little bit of research he had on Yun Chujo. No matter what, little Jiu was their savior. Even if he hid something, he would not harm them. He thought for a moment and said, "No matter what, Tu Lai will definitely not let us go. He is not worth being afraid of. After all, he will not give up hunting and chase us with all his might. However, once Division 1 finds out about this news, we will be doomed. Therefore, we will head to the Raging Fire Forest where Division 2 is located." Yun Chujo curled the corners of her lips. "Big brother, do you think it's safe to go to the second division? Once Tu Lai spreads that thing of yours, not to mention the second division, even the main division won't let you off." The short fatty couldn't help but ask, "Big brother, what exactly is that sheepskin scroll in your hand? Is it very impressive?" Sha Wuhan gave a bitter laugh. At this moment, there was nothing to hide, so he handed the sheepskin scroll in his hand to the short fatty. After the short fatty received it, his eyes immediately widened and he stuttered, Ghost Talisman, a book that makes ghost talismans?" The others were also dumbfounded. This thing, let alone in the base domain, was also an impressive thing even in the flat domain. No wonder Tu Lai had always coveted this thing. The short fatty grimaced and said, "Big brother, little Nine is right. This thing of yours is too precious. If Tu Lai makes a ruckus, we won't have a place in the base region at all." The third scholar pondered for a moment and said, "Big brother, since the news has already been leaked, this thing of yours cannot be preserved at all. Why don't we offer it to Commander 1 of the 2nd Division? He should be able to protect us." Sha Wuhan shook his head, expressing his disapproval. The third scholar frowned. "Big brother, are you reluctant? Although I don't know what this sheepskin scroll means to you, this thing is dead, and people are alive. Why are you so stubborn?" Sha Wuhan bitterly smiled. "How is it reluctant? Third brother, you only know the first part, but you don't know the second part. Even if I give this sheepskin scroll, there is no limit to human greed. They will guess that I have other treasures. In the end, it will be hard for us to escape death." As soon as Sha Yuan's words left his mouth, the third brother and the others immediately fell silent. Could it be that only death awaited them? He Xinjiu looked at Sha Wuhan and said with a faint smile, "Big brother, are you really willing to give this sheepskin scroll to them? If you're really willing to give it to them, I have a way to let us escape." Sha Yuan's eyes lit up. "What way?" Yun Chujo was beaming with joy. Sha Wuhan, the short fatty, and the others were dumbfounded. How did this little Jiu's head grow? She actually thought of such an incredible method. However, this method was really feasible. It could save the sheepskin scroll and everyone's lives. "Alright, little Jiu, well, do as you say." Sha Wuhan gritted his teeth. At this point, this was the only way. A few days later, a huge event happened in the base region that shook the entire base region and even the entire Ping region. The ghost ancestor had actually gifted several goatskin scrolls to make ghost talismans. Not only that, many shops had started selling paper books with the same content, even though it was only the basic ghost talisman production method. But this was enough to drive Ping region and the base region crazy. One had to know that in the past, the methods of making ghost talismans were firmly controlled by the aristocratic families and the imperial family, so the price of ghost talismans was very expensive. Now that they had books that taught elementary ghost talismans, although it was impossible for everyone to learn them, there would definitely be people who could learn them. The price of elementary ghost talismans would drop by a lot, which was a great thing for everyone. Chapter 43:14, Medicinal Soup. When the news reached Thorn Forest, Tu Lai almost died from anger. Later on, he felt something and asked around in secret. Finally, he realized that he had been tricked. However, he did not dare to report it to the First Division because he was afraid of being blamed. After all, if he had reported the news to the First Division earlier, Sha Wuhan would not have escaped. Before he could come to a conclusion, he heard that the world was filled with books that made ghost talismans. He was so angry that he almost vomited blood. Even if he used his heel to think, he knew that these books were definitely the same as Sha Wuhan's. Moreover, it was definitely Sha Wuhan's doing. However, who would believe it if he told others? Who would be stupid enough to take out such a precious thing? Moreover, everyone was convinced that this was the ghost ancestor's blessing. Even if he went out to make a ruckus, he would still be looked down upon by others. They would think that he was talking nonsense, so they could only keep this matter to themselves. At this time, Yun Chujiu and the others had already arrived at the Raging Fire Forest, which was under the jurisdiction of the Second Division. Different from the previous times in Thorn Forest, the conditions of the wolf-killing hunting group had greatly improved. The clothes they wore and the things they used were not very good, but at least they were considered to be above average among the hunting groups in the Raging Fire Forest. The short fatty looked at the yuan coins in his storage ring and could not close his mouth. Little Jiu, second brother, has only admired two people in his life. One is Big Brother, and the other is you. TSK, tell me, how did your brain grow? Not only did it save us from getting killed, but it also made us a lot of money. You are really too smart. Yun Chujiu said with a smile, second brother, this is just a small amount of money. We will definitely be rich in the future. Sha Wuhan listened with a smile on his face. A few days ago, they had bought the sheepskin scrolls and papers according to what Yun Chujiu had said. Yun Chujiu had also made templates according to the contents of the sheepskin scrolls and made several books with the same content. Then, she used a kind of medicinal liquid to make the books look very old. Finally, she volunteered to sell the books. She did not know how she did it, but in the end, she gave everyone 1 million low-grade yuan coins. Moreover, the books and sheepskin scrolls were also credited to the ghost ancestor's blessing. Just as Sha Wuhan was thinking about it, Yun Chujiu said clearly, come, the medicine is ready. You guys can drink it. Sha Wuhan looked at the pot of black medicinal soup that gave off a strange smell. He was a little afraid, but when he thought about how Yun Chujiu said that this medicinal soup could speed up their cultivation, he had no choice but to bite the bullet and drink the medicinal soup. Yun Chujiu was satisfied to see that they had drunk the entire pot of medicinal soup. This was the medicinal recipe that she had asked Guai Chao through coercion. Moreover, Guai Chao could not speak. Yun Chujiu used a whole 3 days to guess the name of the medicinal soup that it had mentioned. It could be said that this pot of medicinal soup had not come easily. Yun Chujiu pondered. If she wanted to have her own power, then other than herself becoming stronger, Sha Wuhan and the others also had to become stronger quickly. Otherwise, she would not be able to hold on by herself. The short fatty wiped the remaining medicinal juice from the corner of his mouth, grimacing as he asked, Little Jiu, is this medicinal soup really useful? Your origin energy soared to the 7th level of the origin realm in a short period of time. Is it really because you drank this medicinal soup? Yun Chujiu shamelessly nodded her head. That's right. I relied on this medicinal soup to cultivate. However, everyone's constitution is different. Perhaps the effects of drinking it won't be as good as mine, but raising 1 or 2 levels is still possible. The short fatty wanted to continue asking, but he clutched his stomach. Ouch, my stomach hurts. No, I have to go to the toilet. He wasn't the only one. Sha Wuhan and the others also looked pained as they ran to the toilet. Chapter 43:15 Summoning Spirit. Sha Wuhan and the others squatted in the latrine for an entire day. They even suspected that Yun Chuzhou was deliberately messing with them. This wasn't some divine medicine that could cleanse one's bones and marrow, it was a freaking laxative. Yun Chuzhou was calm in the face of their sorrowful gazes. She was thinking about her next step. It wasn't a good idea to keep hunting here. She had to think of a way to increase her strength and recruit people. The next morning, before Yun Chuzhou woke up, she heard the short and fat man's loud voice, Little Jiu, haha, haha, second brother, I have broken through. Soon after, other people's voices were heard. They were all excited because of the breakthrough. Yun Chuzhou slowly walked out of the wooden house. The short and fat man and the others immediately surrounded her. They did not know how to thank her. Yun Chuzhou glanced around, but she didn't see Sha Wuhan. Where's Big Brother? Big Brother hasn't come out yet. He's probably still cultivating. The short, fat man said excitedly. He was already at the 7th layer of the Yuanchu realm, and he would probably break through again in a few days. Little Joe's medicinal soup was too damn magical. At this moment, Sha Wuhan walked out with a smile on his face. Little Joe, your medicinal soup is really effective. I've already broken through to the 9th layer of the Yuanchu realm. The 9th layer of the origin realm? The short fatty and the others were stunned at first, then they congratulated him one after another. The 9th layer of the origin realm could be said to be a dividing point. Once one reached the 9th layer of the origin realm, one could summon a spirit soul, and their combat strength would greatly increase. Big Brother, that's great. Then you can summon a spirit soul now. If the spirit soul summoned is a high-level spirit soul, Big Brother can directly enter the 2nd division, the short fatty said excitedly. Sha Wuhan's mouth revealed a cold smile. Rather than enter those large hunting groups, I'm willing to be with you guys. Yun Chuzhou's heart moved. Sha Wuhan seemed to be very opposed to those large hunting groups. Moreover, he had the ghost talisman book that only aristocratic families possessed. Could it be that he came from an aristocratic family? But why did he end up in the lowly domain? While Yun Chuzhou was pondering, Short Fatty and the others had already prepared the things needed to summon a spirit soul. Actually, there was no need to prepare anything to summon a spirit soul. However, in order to show their respect to the ghost ancestor, many people would prepare offerings when summoning a spirit soul for the first time. They would bathe, change their clothes, and kowtow 3 times before officially starting the summoning. The corner of Yun Chuzhou's mouth twitched. The pretty boy had been brought into the spirit soul world. Could it be that it was because he didn't have these things? Dog 2 said disdainfully at the side, these are all useless pompous things. No matter how grand the ceremony is, if one's aptitude isn't enough, they still won't be able to summon a decent spirit soul. Yun Chuzhou asked curiously, how is the grade of the spirit soul divided? The grade of the spirit soul is divided according to the heaven, earth, black, and yellow grades. However, the ability of the spirit soul will increase with the increase in the elemental energy of the summoner. Then how many spirit souls can each person summon? The number of spirit souls that can be summoned is related to one's aptitude and elemental energy. Some people can only summon 1 spirit soul in their lifetime, while some people can summon multiple spirit souls. However, it's said that they can only summon 5 spirit souls at the same time, Dog 2 explained. Yun Chuzhou touched her chin. Actually, it's not very useful to summon a spirit soul, right? Can't we just contract a few more origin beasts? Little fairy, then you are gravely mistaken. A spirit soul is much more useful than an origin beast. Not only can a spirit soul help the host fight, it can also help the host increase the speed at which the host absorbs yuan qi. With a spirit soul, the cultivation speed will increase significantly. Chapter 43:16 Xiao Yuan's Spirit Soul. From what you've said, this spirit soul is indeed very useful. If you summon 8 or 10 of them, won't your cultivation speed soar to the sky? Yun Chujiu said with narrowed eyes. Butt Face curled his lips. Nice try. 8 or 10 of them. You don't even have the ghost ancestor's mark. I reckon you won't be able to summon even half a spirit soul. Of course, this fellow only thought about it in his heart, but he said obsequiously, "Little fairy, you're right. Maybe you'll be able to summon dozens of spirit souls by then." Yun Chujiu knew that Butt Face was flattering her. She ignored him and looked at Sha Wuhan instead. Sha Wuhan had already bathed. After kowtowing respectfully 3 times and 9 times, he sat down cross-legged and began to summon spirit souls. The other hunting groups also gathered around. This was the first time someone had summoned a spirit in this camp, so they were all very curious. Sha Wuhan bit his right index finger and muttered, "With my body, I worship the ghost ancestor. With my blood, I summon my spirit. Rise." Yun Chuji's mouth twitched when she saw this. What did he mean by worshipping the ghost ancestor with his body? Could it be that the ghost ancestor liked to gather the ghost clan for fun? Furthermore, he would bleed a little every time he summoned it. Wouldn't he die from blood loss in the end? Butt Face hurriedly explained, "Only the first time you summon a spirit soul, you will summon it with blood. In the future, the spirit soul will reside in your sea of consciousness. With a move of your divine sense, it will appear." Yun Chujiu nodded. That's more like it. Otherwise, it would be too terrible. Just as Yun Chujiu was complaining, she saw the yuan qi above Xiao Yuan's head begin to gather and churn. Everyone watched excitedly. From the looks of it, the summoning had succeeded. However, they did not know what kind of spirit soul he would summon. After a moment, a black phantom gradually appeared above Xiao Yuan's head. Finally, the phantom gradually became clear. Dog 2 curled its lips and said, "Io, Xiao Yuan's aptitude is not bad. He actually summoned a mystic rank spirit soul. This should be a soul tiger. Black rank is not bad." Butt Face, are you stupid? And how did you know that this is a black rank spirit soul? Little fairy, you don't know this. The colors of spirit souls of different ranks are different. Yellow rank spirit souls are yellow phantom, black rank spirit souls are black phantom, earth rank spirit souls are white phantom, and heaven rank spirit souls are purple phantom. Heaven rank spirit souls basically don't appear. Most people summon yellow rank spirit souls, so this mystic rank spirit soul is not bad. At this moment, the surrounding people were already congratulating Sha Wuhan. Now that Sha Wuhan was an absolute expert in this camp, everyone was naturally fawning over him. Sha Wuhan was also very satisfied. He originally thought that being able to summon a yellow rank spirit soul was already not bad, but he didn't expect to actually summon a mystic rank spirit soul. Sha Wuhan chatted with everyone for a while before everyone dispersed one after another. The short fatty's mouth was almost unable to close. "Big brother, congratulations. I already said that little Jiu is our lucky star. You see, ever since she joined our wolf hunting group, this good thing has been continuously happening." Sha Wuhan nodded repeatedly. He also felt that his luck had been getting better and better recently, and this was all thanks to little Jiu's luck. Yun Chujiu smiled and exchanged a few pleasantries. In her heart, she thought that she had to hurry up and cultivate. She wanted to be able to summon a spirit soul as soon as possible. Perhaps she could go and look for a gigolo. Due to Sha Wuhan's successful summoning of a spirit soul, coupled with Sha Wuhan's impartial handling of matters, the status of the wolf-killing hunting squad in this camp had obviously risen. They had a faint aura of being the leader of the dragon. Chapter 4317 Don't You Want Revenge? Yun Chujiu felt that the time was right. It was necessary to talk to Sha Wuhan. Tian Yunchujiu and Sha Wuhan went to the town to buy items. When the two of them returned, they walked to an empty place. Yunchujiu suggested that the two of them take a rest, and Sha Wuhan agreed with a smile. The two of them sat down. Yunchujiu asked with a smile, "Big brother, what are your plans in the future?" Sha Wuhan was stunned. Naturally, it's to hunt more high-level origin beasts and train hard. What other plans can there be? The corners of Yunchujiu's mouth curled up. "Big brother, although you haven't said anything, you shouldn't be from the base region, right? You should be from the imperial region, right?" Sha Wuhan's expression changed drastically. Just as he was about to say something, Yunchujiu continued, "Big brother, you don't have to be nervous. No matter who you are, you're still my big brother." Sha Wuhan did not ask how Yunchujiu could tell because he knew that with Yunchujiu's intelligence, she would be able to deduce his identity from some details. He laughed bitterly. "Little Jiu, what are you trying to say?" "Big brother, you have fallen from the imperial region to the lowly region. After all, your family has either been destroyed or you have been framed. In short, you definitely have enemies. Don't you want to take revenge? Also, there are no rules and regulations in the lowly region. As long as your fists are strong enough, you can take a person's life. Admittedly, you can already summon spirits, but if you offend the people from the three great hunting groups, the result will still be death. If you want to not be humiliated, you can only become strong enough. Don't you feel that this kind of fearful life is very cowardly?" When Yunchujiu said these words, there was a faint smile on the corner of her mouth. However, these words stirred up a storm in Sha Wuhan's heart. His expression changed a few times. Finally, he said dejectedly, "Revenge? Of course I want to take revenge, but what can I use to take revenge? I can't beat them. They are high and mighty. I'm just a hunter from the lowly realm now." Yunchujiu didn't ask who Sha Wuhan's enemy was. Instead, she chuckled and said, "Big brother, just because you can't defeat them now doesn't mean that you can't defeat them in the future. Don't you even have the courage to try?" Sha Wuhan stared at Yunchujiu for a while and then said word by word, "Little Jiu, are you really just an orphan girl?" He didn't believe that an orphan girl who had no one to teach her would be so meticulous. She even knew how to change her appearance and medical skills. How could she be an orphan girl? "Big brother, don't care who I am. In short, I'm your friend and not your enemy. You just need to trust me." Yunchujiu curled the corner of her mouth and said with a smile. Sha Wuhan was stunned at first, then said with relief, "It's my stubbornness. Big brother will not mention this matter in the future. But, what exactly do you want to do?" Yunchujiu really appreciated Sha Wuhan's tactfulness. She said with a smile, "Of course, it's to expand our strength. It's not good for our wolf-killing hunting group to have only a few people. We have to integrate the resources of the Raging Fire Forest and annex all the other hunting groups." Although Sha Wuhan had a faint guess, he was still shocked. After a long while, he said, "Will they be willingly annexed by us? Moreover, there are some people with questionable moral character. If we take them in, they will be a disaster." Yunchujiu laughed lightly. "It's naturally best if they are willing. If they are not willing, we will beat them until they are willing. As for some cunning people, we can just kill them directly. Are we going to keep them for the new year?" "Sha Wuhan, little Jiu, is it really good for you to be so cruel?" Chapter 43:18, Little Jiu's summoning spirit. Sha Wuhan coughed dryly and said, "Little Jiu, although our elemental energy is a little higher than the other hunting groups, we only have 7 people after all. I'm afraid we can't fight them head-on, right?" "Big brother, of course we won't fight them head-on. Aren't there a few hunting groups that are having a hard time? Well, lure them over first. This way, our strength will be among the best in the camp. Then, well, pick a few soft persimmon to deal with. Finally, well, take care of those stubborn ones. Don't worry. Since they're all forced to hand over the head fee to the second division, this means that they're not the kind of people who don't know how to be flexible. They'll naturally agree after a few more rounds of beating. Yun Chuzhou said indifferently. If Sha Wuhan hadn't successfully summoned the spirit soul, perhaps this matter would still be somewhat difficult to control. But now that Sha Wuhan had become the absolute powerhouse of the camp, those people would have to accept it even if they didn't want to. Sha Wuhan thought that what Yun Chuzhou said seemed feasible, and said, then after annexing these people, what should we do next? Annexing these people, we will have the strength to contend with the second division. The hurricane hunting group will send people over to welcome us. If there are no accidents, we will become a division of the hurricane hunting group. Sha Wuhan nodded. This possibility was very high. Many subgroups of the hurricane hunting group were recruiting people. The people of the main group wouldn't put these people in their eyes. As long as they paid the yuan coins on time, it would be fine. And then? Will it end here? Sha Wuhan felt that Yun Chuzhou's ambition wasn't just like this. Then, we will expand our territory, encroach on other subgroups, and increase our strength. Finally, we will be able to contend with the hurricane hunting group. Then, we will annex the other two hunting groups and kill them in the even field. In short, our final goal is to become the number one hunting group in the Ghost region. Yun Chuzhou said unhurriedly. Sha Wuhan felt that Yun Chuzhou had gone crazy. Not to mention the number one hunting squad in the Ghost domain, even the number one hunting squad in the Scum domain was just a fool's dream, alright? However, he couldn't deny that he had been stimulated by Yun Chuzhou's magnificent blueprint. He felt that the hot blood that had been dormant for a long time had begun to boil once again. Could he really return to the imperial domain? Could he really trample on the person who had humiliated him back then? Sha Wuhan pondered for a moment and said, Little Jiu, this is a very important matter. Let me think about it carefully. Yun Chuzhou nodded. She knew that her words had a huge impact on Sha Wuhan. It was understandable that he could not accept it for a while. The two of them got up and continued on their journey back to the camp. One morning a few days later, the short and fat man saw He Xinjiu. He exclaimed, Little Jiu, you broke through again? Didn't you just break through to the 8th level of the Origin Core realm a few days ago? You actually broke through to the 9th level of the Origin Core realm in just a few days? This is too much of a blow. The other few people also made a big fuss. Originally, Little Jiu was the weakest, but how long had it been? She was actually at the same level of origin power as boss. What a freak. Actually, He Xinjiu originally wanted to hide her true elemental energy level, but she wanted to try summoning a spirit soul, so she didn't hide it. Moreover, her elemental energy was too low and didn't have much say. After weighing the pros and cons, she didn't adjust her elemental energy level. Little Jiu, since you're already at the 9th level of the origin realm, you can try summoning a spirit soul. After the short fatty finished speaking, he started setting up in a hurry. The first time he did it, the second time he did it. Very quickly, he finished setting up. The other hunting groups also ran over to watch the show. All of them were envious. Some members of the wolf-killing hunting group had reached the 9th level of Yuanchu. If Zhen Meili could successfully summon a spirit soul, who would dare to provoke the wolf-killing hunting group in the future? Although Yun Chuzhou was reluctant, she still followed the procedure. After kowtowing 3 times, she bit her index finger in pain. With my body, I worship the ghost ancestor. With my blood, I summon a spirit soul. Rise! After Yun Chuzhou finished chanting, everyone looked at her eagerly, wanting to see what kind of spirit she summoned. Chapter 43:19 Summon something. However, half a day had passed. Everyone's necks were sore from waiting. There was no movement above Yun Chuzhou's head. Not to mention the spirit soul, even her yuan qi did not fluctuate. Everyone shook their heads. It seemed like Zhen Meili's summoning failed. Was it because she was too ugly that the spirit soul despised her? He Xinjiu had expected it. After all, she didn't have the ghost mark in her body, so she couldn't activate it. Her blood was wasted. She could summon a brick. Just as everyone was about to leave, someone exclaimed, "Look! She has summoned a spiritual soul." It really worked. But what kind of spiritual soul is that? Why isn't there a head or limbs but only a body? It doesn't look like a plant spirit, but it does look like a brick. But aren't the bricks black and green? Why is her brick red? Yeah, there's no red in the corresponding color of the spirit. What the hell did she summon? Listening to the discussion of the crowd, Hei Shinjo stopped meditating and summoned the spirit in front of her with her telepathic thoughts. This fellow was almost angered to death. She had only thought about it casually, but she had actually summoned a brick? And it was a freaking big brick? After taking a closer look, Hei Shinjo was even more furious. The spirit she summoned was not a spirit at all. This big brick was clearly condensed by those drifters. Everyone did not understand. Seeing Yun Chujo like this, they thought that she was too disappointed and sad. However, it was also true. Anyone who summoned such a thing would be disappointed and sad. Both beast spirits and plant spirits had intelligence. What was the use of such a big brick? Could it be that she would use this big brick to smash people when she was facing the enemy? Some people gloated and winked at each other. Zhen Meili was probably too ugly, so only this big brick chose her. The short and fat man coughed twice and said dryly, "Little Jiu, don't be sad. Although your spirit is a little special, it's strong." Yun Chujo, are you sure that this is comforting and not a blow to me? Yun Chujo really couldn't be bothered to look at the big brick that was an eyesore. With a move of her spiritual sense, the big brick drilled into her forehead. Yun Chujo was stunned. Something wasn't right. How could those damn drifters listen to her spiritual senses' command? Could it be that with her summoning, those drifters really became her spirit soul? In order to verify her thoughts, she moved her divine sense again, and the solid and large brick phantom appeared in front of her. Sha Wuhan saw Yun Chuji's dumbstruck look and couldn't help but shake his head. Little Jiu must have suffered a huge blow and couldn't accept it for a moment. However, the large brick she summoned was indeed a little strange. Could this thing be useful? Little Jiu, don't be too sad. As your elemental energy increases, you can still continue to summon spirit souls. Perhaps the next spirit soul will be much stronger than this one, Sha Wuhan consoled. The large brick trembled. Next. The next 100 would be them too. Hei Shinjo came back to her senses and unhappily kept the large brick between her brows. She cursed in her heart. These damn drifters had always wanted to drill into her glabella when they were at the Nameless Sword sect. Now, they finally got what they wanted. Big brother, I'm fine. The brick is pretty good too. If anyone dares to provoke me, I'll smack them to death. Hei Shinjo said with a smile. However, this smile was even uglier than crying in Sha Wuhan and the others' eyes. Chapter 43:20 really knew a lot. Sha Wuhan didn't know how to comfort her, so he said, "Since you're fine, let's go in and hunt." Yun Chujo blinked her eyes. This was good too. She could try to see if this big brick would work. Therefore, Hei Shinjo followed Sha Wuhan and the others into the raging fire forest. But Face, who was in the primeval beast bag, said slyly, "Little fairy, actually, it's not the fault of those drifters. Who told you to think of the big brick when you summoned them? If you think of dragons and phoenixes, those drifters might turn into dragons and phoenixes." Hei Shinjo felt that what Butt Face said made sense. This fellow was so regretful that his intestines were turning green. Why did she think of a brick at that time? Fortunately, it would be even worse if she thought of a pretty boy or a pretty boy with a pot body at that time. Thinking of debeiming, this fellow's mood darkened a little. He thought that he could enter the spirit soul world by summoning spirit souls, but he didn't expect to be intercepted by those drifters. It was really depressing. She remembered that she was brought to the ghost realm by these drifters in her sleep. The more she thought about it, the more she felt that these things seemed to be planned by those drifters to force her to summon them as spirit souls. Just as Yun Chujio was thinking about it, she heard a cry for help from afar. It sounded familiar. It's the members of the cheetah hunting group. Let's go and take a look. Sha Wuhan said. Hei Xinjiu also shouted, hold on. Sha Wuhan and the others also jumped towards the place where the accident happened. Yun Chuzhou shook her head and had no choice but to follow them. It was not that she did not want to save them, but she had to observe the situation before making a move, right? If she made a move rashly, she might not be able to save them, and her side would also have to suffer. The cheetah hunting group was one of the teams that could contend with the wolf-killing hunting group in this camp. Their leader, Qin Zhang, was at the 8th layer of the origin core realm. He had more than 20 people under him, most of whom were around the 6th layer of the origin core realm. As there were many of them, there was no problem hunting 5th and 6th layer origin beasts. Even if they encountered 7th, 8th, or even 9th layer origin beasts, it wouldn't be a problem. However, they were screaming so miserably right now. They must have encountered something terrifying. When Yun Chuzhou arrived, Sha Wuhan and the others had already joined the battle. When she saw the situation in front of her, her expression couldn't help but change. More than half of the people from the cheetah hunting group were dead or injured. Those who were still fighting were also covered in blood. A huge origin flood dragon was currently fighting Sha Wuhan and the others with its scarlet tongue. There were only a few shallow wounds on the body of that origin flood dragon. It was likely that the people from the cheetah hunting group had used their swords to cut it, however, it clearly did not cause too much damage to that origin flood dragon. Yun Chuzhou discovered that although Sha Wuhan and the others had the advantage in numbers, their swords and sabers did not have any effect on the flood dragon's body. As time passed, it was likely that they would not be able to hold on. As expected, as time passed, other than Sha Wuhan and Yun Chuzhou, the short and fat man and the others were all injured to different degrees. But face, what kind of origin beast is this? Why is its body so strong? This origin flood dragon is a level 11 origin beast, which is equivalent to the second level of the Ghost Clan. For origin beasts, level 10 is a shackle. Once they reach level 10, their bodies will become stronger and stronger. Ordinary swords and sabers couldn't hurt them easily. If you want to kill it, you have to find its weak points, but Face said with some pride. This guy thought that he knew a lot. Awesome! What is the weak point of the flood dragon? Little fairy, do you know why the flood dragon is called a flood dragon? But Face said mysteriously. Chapter 43:21, One brick to kill you, you dumbass. Cut the crap and tell me where its weakness is. Yun Chuzhou was so angry that she was about to gasp. At this time, this fellow was still showing off its knowledge. But Face shrank his neck. He quickly said, Little fairy, do you see a protruding piece of meat on the upper brow of the flood dragon? That piece of meat crosses between its eyes. This is also the origin of the name of the flood dragon and its weakness. Without waiting for it to finish speaking, Yun Chuzhou picked up the short knife and stabbed at the protruding piece of meat between the flood dragon's eyes. Yun Chuzhou also jumped up. But Face also said the following words, but ordinary knives and swords can't hurt it. Yun Chuzhou was furious. This scheming dog really deserved to be taught a lesson. When she returned, she would definitely teach it a lesson. At this moment, Yun Chujia's short knife had already touched the bulge between the Yuan Jiao's brows. It was as if it had stabbed into a large rock, unable to penetrate it at all. The Yuan Jiao was furious. It sent Hei Xinjiu flying with a swipe of its claw. Everyone could only watch as Yun Chuzhou hung on a tree in the distance like a kite with a broken string. It was most likely doomed. Sha Wuhan and the others were furious. They attacked the Yuan Jiao again. Sha Wuhan was filled with regret. If he had not rushed over to save her, little Jiao would not have died. He was too incompetent as a leader. The Yuan Jiao was also very angry. It had thought that these dregs were easy to deal with, but it did not expect that they were not all dead after such a long time. That ugly woman even wanted to attack its weakness. She was really courting death. With the Yuan Jiao going crazy, Sha Wuhan and the others could not hold on any longer. Sha Wuhan could use his speed to escape, but he could not leave Shorty and the others behind. He could only hold on with all his might. Just as everyone thought that they would definitely die, they saw He Xingjiu walking over with a big red brick in her hand. To be precise, that big brick was floating in her hand, and it looked like she was enjoying it. Sha Wuhan and the others were surprised and happy. Little Jiu didn't die again. Cough, cough, it wasn't their fault. Last time, they thought that this fellow was killed by the three-eyed ghost wolf, but she didn't die. This time, the Yuan Jiao slapped her hard, but she was still fine. Her skin was really rough and her flesh was thick. The Yuan Jiao dragon was also stunned. Others might not know, but it knew. After it slapped her, it could hear the sound of the ugly woman's bones breaking. How could she not die? Also, what the hell was that thing in her hand? Was there such a spirit soul? Just as it was stunned, Yun Chuzhou jumped up. The Yuan Jiao dragon was so angry that it sent her flying with another slap. But at the same time, the large brick also smashed into the bulge between its brows with a bang. The large brick was clearly just an illusion, but everyone heard a bang. The bulge between the Yuan Jiao's brows was forcefully flattened. The Yuan Jiao let out a miserable cry and its body began to tremble violently. Sha Wuhan saw this and hurriedly commanded his soul tiger to pounce towards the Yuan Jiao's brows. A moment later, Yuan Jiao's corpse fell to the ground with a loud crash. Sha Wuhan did not have the time to take a closer look. Instead, he leaped in the direction where Yun Chuzhou had been sent flying. His eyes were bloodshot. He felt that little Jiu really would not survive this time. No matter who was slapped twice by Yuan Jiao, they would not survive. Before he got close, he saw Yun Chuzhou stand up unsteadily. Although there was a lot of blood on her clothes, she was actually still alive. Chapter 43-22, Dog 2 Who Stole Food. Sha Wuhan rubbed his eyes. He was really not dead. While Sha Wuhan was in a daze, Yun Chuzhou had already walked up to him. She lowered her voice and said, "Big brother, this is a good opportunity. The leader of the cheetah hunting group is dead, and these people are without a leader. Think of a way to bring these people over." Sha Wuhan was completely dumbfounded. How could she think of these twists and turns at a time like this? What a pervert. He suddenly felt that little Jiu was more suitable to be the leader than him. He remembered that Yun Chuzhou seemed to have shouted, "Hold on," before, but he was eager to save people and ignored her. Fortunately, little Jiu turned the tide and hit the vital point of the Yuan Jiao with a big brick. Otherwise, not only would they not be able to save people, they might also die here. At this moment, Sha Wuhan had the intention of giving up his position. He felt that he was more suitable to be a warrior who charged into the front line, and strategizing was too taxing on his brain, so little Jiu was more suitable. Yun Chuzhou did not know what Sha Wuhan was thinking. Seeing that he was in a daze, she thought that he was worried and did not know what to say. She could only say, "You don't have to say anything. You just need to show that you want to recruit talents. Those who have the intention will naturally come and join us." Sha Wuhan nodded and decided to have a good talk with Yun Chuzhou after returning to the camp. The two of them walked to the front of the group. The short and fat man and the others were already helping to treat the severely injured hunter. When they saw Yun Chuzhou coming over, the short and fat man grinned and said, "Little Jiu, it's great that you're all right. I have to say, your skin is really rough and your flesh is really thick. Also, although that big brick of yours doesn't look like much, it's still quite useful at critical moments. If it wasn't for that hit, I'm afraid that we would all have to die here today." The corner of Yun Chuzhou's eyes twitched. What strong body, tough skin, and thick flesh. Was it really good to use such words on her? Not only did more than half of the tiger hunting group die, but their leader also died. It was a cloud of sorrow and misery. However, those who were still alive still sincerely thanked Sha Wuhan and the others. If it weren't for the wolf hunting group, none of them would have survived today. Sha Wuhan was polite for a while, and then he followed Yun Chujia's words and revealed his intention to recruit talents. However, he stopped there and quickly changed the topic. The members of the leopard-killing group were now leaderless, and more than half of them were dead or injured. It was the time when they were in a daze. When they heard Sha Wuhan's words, many people were immediately tempted. However, the matter was of great importance, and they still had to consider it again. Therefore, no one made a statement on the spot. In front of them, they were more concerned about how to distribute the corpse of the origin flood dragon. Logically speaking, it was not an exaggeration to say that even if the wolf hunting group took it all for themselves. After all, if they did not come to their rescue, the members of the cheetah hunting group would be completely wiped out. However, people were greedy, and there was still some luck. One had to know that this origin flood dragon was a level 11 origin beast. Just the origin pills in its body alone could be sold for 200,000 to 300,000 yuan. This was not a small amount. Just when everyone did not know how to open their mouths, they saw an earthy yellow puppy reach out its paw and pull out a fiery red origin pill from between the eyebrows of the origin flood dragon. It swallowed it with a smack. He Xinjiu pretended to be angry and scolded, "But face, what are you doing? Are you looking for a beating? I'll beat you to death. You actually dared to eat it secretly. Hurry up and spit it out." Seeing this, Buttface ran away while Yun Chujiu chased after him and soon disappeared. Chapter 43-23, Commander Little Nine. Everyone looked at him with a dumbfounded expression. The short fatty blinked his eyes. Why did he feel that Little Nine did it on purpose? One had to know that during the previous battle, that little puppy had never shown up. Sha Wuhan thought the same. He coughed dryly and said, "Since the origin core of the origin flood dragon has been eaten by Little Nine's origin pet, then the corpse of this origin flood dragon will belong to you guys." The members of the cheetah hunting group were naturally embarrassed to accept it. Although the Yuan Dan had been eaten by that little puppy, they couldn't let Sha Wuhan and the others return empty-handed, right? Therefore, after discussing, they decided to split the Yuan Jiao's corpse equally between each family. After they finished discussing, He Xinjiu also returned. She was cursing and swearing, nothing more than cursing Buttface for being greedy. The short and fat man pretended to persuade her, and He Xinjiu apologized hypocritically, saying that she didn't discipline him properly. After that, everyone returned to the camp. After dinner, Sha Wuhan went to find Yun Chujiu. "Little Jiu, there's something Big Brother wants to discuss with you," Sha Wuhan said with some difficulty. "Big Brother, go ahead." "Little Jiu, I agree with your previous plan, but I'm really not good at scheming, so I plan to let you be the leader. What do you think? This is not good, right? The wolf-killing hunting group was founded by you, now give me the leader. If I take it, wouldn't I be taking over the magpie's nest?" He Xinjiu quickly rejected. In fact, this guy was so happy in his heart. This proposal was too good to be true. Sha Wuhan advised a few more words before He Xinjiu said, "All right, since you insist on giving the leader's position to me, then I'll thicken my skin and take it. There's only one thing. Since I'm the leader, then you have to listen to me in the future, brother. Otherwise, don't blame me for being merciless." "Of course. I'll listen to you in the future," Sha Wuhan agreed without hesitation. The two of them discussed and decided to gather the short and fat man and the others. Sha Wuhan told them his decision. Although the short and fat man and the others were a little surprised, they did not raise any objections. There was no other reason. Yun Chujiu had really brought them a lot of surprises these days. They had already placed Yun Chujiu in the position of leader. Yun Chujiu coughed twice and said with her hands behind her back, "Brothers, we can talk in private. However, when we are outside, you are my subordinates. If you disobey my orders, don't blame me for being merciless." Everyone was shocked by the killing intent that Yun Chujio exuded. They immediately straightened their faces and answered in unison, "Yes, leader." The newly made regiment commander Little Nine was very satisfied when she saw how the short fatty and the others cooperated. She had successfully completed the first step, and the next step was to expand her strength. It was estimated that it wouldn't take more than a few days, the members of the cheetah hunting group would come over to seek refuge. Before that, she still had one more thing to do. "Big brother, everyone's weapons are basically destroyed today. Tomorrow, let's go and sell the corpses of the origin beasts and origin flood dragons that we have hunted these past few days. Then, we can buy some weapons back," Yun Chujio said to Sha Wuhan. Sha Wuhan nodded. Weapons were extremely important to them. They really should go and buy some new ones. Thus, the next day, Yun Chujio and Sha Wuhan went to a relatively large town. After they arrived at the town and bought some suitable weapons, Yun Chujio spent a lot of money to buy 3 talisman pens and many talisman papers to draw ghost talismans. Chapter 43:24 The shop assistant was smiling like a flower. Although many people wanted to learn how to make ghost talismans, it was not easy to sell them due to the high price of the talisman paper and pen used to make ghost talismans. He did not expect this ugly monster to buy so many at once. What an idiot! Sha Wuhan saw Yun Chujio spend hundreds of thousands of yuan at once and felt that she was really crazy. Before he could stop her, Yun Chujio had already transferred the money to the shop owner, so he could only shut up. After leaving the shop, Sha Wuhan said disapprovingly, "Little Jiu, you're too impulsive. Even if you want to learn how to make ghost talismans, you don't have to buy so many materials. You can just practice on ordinary paper first. It's too wasteful." Yun Chujio just smiled and didn't say anything. When she carved the template, she had already memorized the ghost talismans on the sheepskin scroll. Although this thing was slightly different from talisman seals, the principle was the same. It was a piece of cake. Sha Wuhan saw that she didn't say anything, so he didn't say anything more. He thought to himself, "This little Jiu is good in every way, but she's too stubborn." In the evening, the two returned to the camp. The short and fat man and the others were very happy when they saw the newly bought weapons, clothes, and other items. The more they looked forward to this day, the more hopeful they would be. After dinner, Yun Chujio returned to her wooden house. She let Dog 2 guard the door while she began to draw the ghost talisman. The goatskin scroll that Sije Wuhan used was filled with basic ghost talismans, such as frost talismans, fireball talismans, earth escape talismans, vine talismans, and so on. Yun Chujio also drew a few of them for emergencies. It had to be said that the grade of these ghost talismans was too low, so they were only passable. Fortunately, due to the low elemental energy of the people in the base domain, these ghost talismans were enough to be used in the base domain. Dog 2, who was guarding outside, was thinking about Little 99. Ever since it swallowed the origin core of that origin flood dragon, its elemental energy level had gradually increased. Now, it was already a level 10 origin beast. It seemed that it would need to swallow more origin cores in the future. However, if the little fairy's plan went smoothly, there was no need to worry about not having any origin cores to eat. TSK. Therefore, it was simply the most correct decision in its life when it chose to follow the little fairy back then. Yun Chujio drew ghost talismans in the middle of the night. After her origin energy was exhausted, she had no choice but to stop writing and close her eyes to sleep. Early the next morning, a few members of the cheetah hunting group came over to seek refuge. Sha Wuhan smiled and said, "Everyone, the current leader of our wolf hunting group is Little Jiu. You can talk to her." Those people couldn't help but look at each other. The leader had become Zhenmeili. Sha Wuhan's brain must be broken, right? How could he give the leader to Zhenmeili out of the blue? However, they thought that Zhenmeili was also in the 9th layer of the origin realm. Although her spirit soul was a little strange, her strength was also very outstanding, so she was worthy of being the leader. The few of them found Yun Chuzhou and explained their intention to join the group. Yun Chuzhou smiled and said, "Since you think highly of our wolf-killing hunting group, we naturally welcome you. However, our wolf-killing hunting group is different from other hunting groups. We have rules. If you violate the rules, the light one will be expelled from the hunting group, and the heavy one will be killed directly. You have to think carefully." What rules? Someone asked. Yun Chuzhou glanced at the short and fat man. The short and fat man immediately took out a piece of paper and read it. 1. Under no circumstances are you allowed to betray your teammates. 2. Under no circumstances are you allowed to humiliate a woman. 3. Under no circumstances are you to unconditionally obey the orders of the 9th Regiment commander. 4. Under no circumstances are you to hand over all the income to the 9th Regiment commander, who will distribute it. Chapter 43-25, Brothers in Life and Death. The few of them hesitated after hearing it. They had never heard of a hunting team that had so many rules. Even the sub-teams of the hurricane hunting team did not have so many rules. Weren't they making themselves uncomfortable? Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. If you feel that these rules are too restrictive, then please go back. However, I can promise you one thing. As long as you become a member of our wolf hunting group, I can swear to the ghost ancestor that no matter what, we will never give up on a companion. No matter what, we will always put the life of our companion first. Those people were shocked. With such a promise, those restrictions were really nothing. After all, what was more important than life? If they had to guard against their teammates when they went out to hunt, then it would be too tiring. Moreover, they saw that the wolf-killing hunting group's food and clothes were much better than other hunting groups, so they looked at each other, one after another. They said, "Little Captain Joe, we are willing to join the wolf-killing hunting group. Please accept us." Yun Chuzhou smiled. "Alright, welcome to the wolf-killing hunting group. From now on, we will be teammates who fight side by side. We will be brothers who will share life and death with each other." Everyone was excited by Yun Chuzhou's words. This Yun Chuzhou made people ignore her ugly appearance and even her gender. They believed that with such a leader, they would definitely be able to display their skills. Sha Wuhan watched from the side and couldn't help but nod inwardly. Little Jiu was indeed more suitable to be a leader than him. Just a few words had made these new hunters have a sense of recognition. Moreover, if they violated the rules in the future, if little Jiu wanted to be punished, they wouldn't be able to say anything. With a precedent, more and more hunters came to seek refuge. Every time, Yun Chuzhou would have the short fatty read out the rules of the wolf hunting group. If they could accept it, they would join. If they didn't, they wouldn't force them. Because He Xinjiu was meticulous, not only did the wolf hunting group kill a lot of origin beasts, but they also killed high-level demon beasts. Everyone's income was also rising. As a result, there were people who were jealous. On this day, when everyone was about to go hunting, they saw a group of people blocking the entrance of the camp aggressively. "Zhen Meili, your wolf hunting group is too overbearing. Yesterday, the three-eyed ghost wolf was discovered by our eagle hunting squad first, but you guys took it by force with your numbers. Are you trying to be the king of the raging fire forest?" San Jiaoyan, a triangle-eyed man, said angrily. Yun Chuzhou looked at him indifferently. "We are overbearing. We just want to be the king." "Why? Do you want to fight?" San Jiaoyan didn't expect Yun Chuzhou to be so straightforward. He was stunned for a moment, then, he said, "Zhen Meili, the fire forest has its rules. Everyone competes fairly. You are making an enemy out of all of us." Yun Chuzhou curled her lips. "All of us? Do you mean all of us?" TSK, you are just jealous because you see our wolf-killing hunting group thriving. What three-eyed ghost wolf is just an excuse. You don't like us, and coincidentally, I don't like you either. Since that's the case, let's fight and see who's the coward. San Jiaoyan was just looking for trouble to show off, but he didn't expect Zhen Meili to be so belligerent that she really wanted to fight. He was a little scared. Chapter 43-26, the brutal little 9th Regiment Commander San Jiaoyan said with a fierce expression, I won't lower myself to your level. In short, don't provoke our eagle hunting regiment in the future. Otherwise, we will teach you a lesson. Let's go. Wait. You came and left as you said. Don't you think too little of our wolf hunting regiment? You have delayed our hunting time. Shouldn't you give us some compensation? He Xinjiu said with a cold smile. He was about to take care of the eagle hunting group, but he didn't expect them to come to him. San Jiaoyan was furious. She was obviously scamming him. He snorted and planned to leave by force. He didn't expect to be restrained by Yun Chujiu and Sha Wuhan as soon as he turned around. What do you want to do? San Jiaoyan was shocked and scared. He never thought that Yun Chujiu and Sha Wuhan would suddenly attack. He was only at the 8th layer of Yuanchu. He was no match for Yun Chujiu and Sha Wuhan. He dared to come and find trouble because he knew that Yun Chujiu would not dare to make a move easily. He did not expect this person to be fearless. Yun Chujiu took the newly bought sword and chopped off Triangle Eye's head. This time, not to mention the eagle hunting group, even the wolf hunting group was shocked by San Jiaoyan. She was killed just like that. This was too cruel. For a moment, everyone was silent. Only the sound of blood dripping from Yun Chujiu's sword could be heard. Yun Chujiu glanced at the members of the eagle hunting group. Since you have the guts to provoke us, you must have the guts to face the consequences. You have two choices. One is to join our wolf hunting group, and the other is to get out of the raging fire forest. Choose for yourself. A few people in the eagle hunting group shouted, Zhen Meili, don't go too far. At most, well, fight to the death. Yun Chujiu snorted, fish may die, but the net may not be broken. Why don't we give it a try? As soon as Yun Chujiu finished her words, a big brick appeared in her hand. Sha Wuhan also released his soul tiger, and the short fatty and the others also took out their weapons. Among the remaining members of the eagle hunting group, the highest was only at the 8th level of Yuanchu. They were no match for Sha Wuhan and Yun Chujiu at all. In addition, San Jiaoyan was already dead, so they immediately panicked. Should they fight or surrender? After a moment of stalemate, someone said, I am willing to join the wolf hunting group. With someone taking the lead, people quickly expressed their willingness to join the wolf hunting group. To put it bluntly, they didn't have any feelings for the eagle hunting group. They were just making a living. Yun Chujiu noticed that although a few people agreed to join the wolf-killing hunting group, their eyes were flickering. She couldn't help but sneer in her heart. They wanted to play tricks in front of her. They were courting death. Although Yun Chujiu had a plan in her heart, she didn't say anything. She just let the short fatty read out the rules of the wolf-killing hunting group. Those people were submissive and said that they would strictly abide by them. Yun Chujiu waved her claws, indicating for everyone to go to the forest of fire to hunt. In the evening, everyone returned with a full load. After dinner, Yun Chujiu gathered everyone together. Then, she gave the short fatty and the others a look and immediately controlled the 4 people. The 4 people were indignant and shouted, Leader, what are you doing? What did we do wrong? Yun Chujiu sneered. I told you this morning about the rules of our wolf hunting group, but you know it. Chapter 43-27, Military orders were like a mountain. The 4 of them shouted that they had been wronged, claiming that they had not violated any of the regimental rules. Yun Chujiu sneered and gave the short fatty a look. The short fatty took out a piece of paper and read, at 15:45 p.m., one became uninjured and intentionally lured the Yuan beast's attack onto Yihong. At that moment, Zhuang Shao kept a yellow-ranked green vine into his storage ring while everyone else was fighting with the Yuan beast. With every sentence the short fatty recited, the 4 people's faces turned paler. They never expected that their small actions would be recorded by others. They wanted to deny it, but with evidence and witnesses, there was no way to deny it. The 4 people immediately admitted their mistakes. Leader, we were wrong. Give us another chance and we will definitely turn over a new leaf. That's right, leader. Since this is our first offense, please spare us this time. Don't chase us out. Yun Chuzhou said lightly, I won't chase you out. The 4 of them instantly revealed joy on their faces. They knew that although Zhen Meili was big and burly, she was still a woman. Women were the most soft-hearted. If they said a few more nice words, they would definitely be able to turn a big issue into a small one. However, Yun Chujia's next sentence made them feel as if they had fallen into an ice cave. I won't chase you out. I want to kill all of you. What? Kill them? The 4 people immediately shouted, Leader, it's not like we made a big mistake. Why do you have the right to kill us? It wasn't just the 4 of them. The others also felt that this was making a big fuss out of nothing, right? Was it necessary? Yun Chuzhou swept a glance at the 4 of them, then, she said coldly, it's not a big mistake. If we weren't hunting a mere 8th tier origin beast today, but a 12th tier or even higher tier fey beast, Wan Cheng, would Yi Hong still be alive if you did that? If we were to face a life and death battle, Zhuang Xiao, you would only care about your own petty gains. It's very likely that because you did not put in any effort, you would cause all of us to die together. Is this a small matter? There is no small matter on the battlefield. Moreover, you dare to be so lazy and slippery on the first day, it can be seen that your usual behavior is like this. If I let you go today, according to your hearts, at the very least, you will spread rumors elsewhere, slander us to kill the wolf-hunting group. At the very least, you will be secretly evil, kill us with a knife, kill us. So, do you think I have a reason not to kill you? Men, kill them. The short and fat man and the others immediately raised their knives and killed the 4 people. Yun Chuzhou glanced at the people who were silent in the cold and said coldly, military orders are like mountains. Let me repeat it again. If anyone disobeys the rules, this is a lesson learned from the past. After saying that, Yun Chuzhou swung her sleeves and went straight into her wooden house. The rest of the people looked at each other and then looked at the bodies of the 4 people on the ground. They could not help but shiver. Their regiment commander was really too cruel. It was better to be obedient in the future. However, some people felt that this was very good. The regiment commander was right. It was also a bad idea to keep such people who were scheming and scheming. It was better to kill them. Yun Chuzhou returned to the wooden house and let out a sigh of relief. It was not that she was cruel, nor was it that she was heartless. The main reason was that the team was expanding now. If they did not establish their authority, the hearts of the people would be scattered. In the future, they would not be able to take it back even if they wanted to. Yun Chuzhou took out the storage ring of Sanjiaoyan. Other than some yuan coins, Yun Chuzhou saw an ancient-looking ring inside. Yun Chuzhou held it in her hand and looked at it. She sent her spiritual sense into it and found that there was nothing inside. Chapter 43-28, Yama Yun Chuzhou couldn't help but feel a little discouraged. The storage space of this ring wasn't big, so it didn't seem to be worth much. However, Dog Tu owed Sun and said, Little fairy, your luck is really good. Do you know what this ring is used for? What is it used for? Previously, didn't I tell you that if the opponent's elemental energy is 5 levels higher than yours, they will be able to tell your true gender? If you wear this ring, unless the opponent's elemental energy level is 10 levels higher than yours, they won't be able to tell your true gender. Yun Chujia's eyes instantly lit up. She immediately refined the ring and wore it on her hand. After the eagle hunting squad was annexed, the hunting squads in this camp were no longer able to contend against the wolf hunting squad. However, Yun Chuzhou did not further annex them. Instead, she began to increase everyone's elemental energy. She did not directly boil the medicinal soup like she did with Sha Wuhan and the others. Instead, she added some herbs into her daily meals and gradually cleansed her subordinates' marrow and bones. The reason why she did this was because it was a sin to have a treasure. It was better not to spread the news of the medicinal soup. These people who came later were not as good as Sha Wuhan and the others, so Yun Chuzhou naturally did not trust them. During this period, when the people from the second division came to collect the human head fee, Yun Chuzhou specially gave a lot of yuan to the small leader in private. She had only one purpose, which was to shut him up. Now that they were still young, if the people from the second division knew that they were expanding so quickly, they would definitely come and suppress them. That would be difficult to handle. The small leader had received some benefits and did not tell the higher-ups about the wolf hunting group when he returned. Moreover, he did not think that the wolf hunting group would be able to achieve anything. There were only a few dozen people. How could he know that after the small leader and the others left, Yun Chuzhou had sped up the pace of annexation? The reason why she did not annex them before was to numb the people of the second division. The remaining hunting groups had no way to compete with the wolf-killing hunting group. In just a few days, Yun Chuzhou had completely annexed all the hunting groups in the Raging Fire Forest. For some people with low moral conduct, they were killed without saying a word. Hei Xinjiu also had the nickname of Yama. Of course, her subordinates only dared to shout in private, and they did not dare to say anything in front of her even if they were beaten to death. After cleaning up, the number of wolf-killing hunting group was finally fixed at 250 people. Yun Chuzhou, this number was good, yes, it was a great fortune. She divided the wolf-killing hunting group into 5 groups. Short Fatty and the others were each in charge of a group, and Sha Wuhan was the deputy leader. With this, the entire wolf-killing hunting group was under Yun Chuzhou's control, and she wasn't afraid of anyone daring to make any small moves. Actually, Hei Xinjiu was overthinking things. This fellow's recent series of lightning strikes had already scared the wits out of these people. Moreover, due to her good command, all aspects of the conditions had greatly improved. These people did not need to make things difficult for themselves. Hei Xinjiu saw that the interior was like an iron wall. The next step was to break away from the control of the second division and occupy the territory. Yun Chuzhou held the map of the base area and looked at it a few times. Finally, her gaze fell on the Qian mountain range. The Qian mountain range was rich in resources, and it was easy to defend but hard to attack. It was the best base. However, that place was now the territory of the Blizzard Hunting Group's first division. If they wanted to occupy that place, they had to chase away or annex the Blizzard Hunting Group's first division. Yun Chuzhou pondered for a few days before gathering everyone together. Everyone stood neatly in 10 rows. They stood upright in silence. There was nothing they could do. There was once a hunter who did not care about these things and was killed by Hei Xinjiu. After that, no one dared to show off anymore. Chapter 43-29. Qian Mountain Range. Yun Chuzhou's expression was cold as she said in a deep voice, "Everyone, thanks to everyone's great love, I thickened my skin and became the regiment commander. Since I have become the regiment commander, I have to plan for your future. Right now, our strength is on par with the second division. If we continue to stay here, we will sooner or later attract trouble. Moreover, do you even have the guts to live like kings and generals? Are you all willing to live your lives in mediocrity and mediocrity? Are you all willing to see the people of the second division nodding and bowing like grandsons?" The members of the wolf-killing hunting group were naturally unwilling. Who would be willing to live a life of bowing and bowing? Who would be willing to be bullied by those cowards all day long? Yun Chuzhou continued, "There are no rules in the scum domain. There isn't even any human ethics. Only the strong are respected. If you want to not be bullied and stand out, you can only become stronger. Although I, Zhen Meili, am not talented, I still have some ambition. As long as you follow me, I guarantee that each of you will be able to hold your heads high in the future." Yun Chuzhou's words made everyone's blood boil. At this moment, even if they were to go against the hurricane hunting squad, they would still dare to do it on a whim. Sha Wuhan sighed in his heart. Little Jiu was indeed more suited to be a leader. Just a few words had already aroused everyone's fighting spirit. Yun Chujo had almost laid the groundwork. Only then did she say, "Now, we must leave their territory before the second division arrives. As for the new camp, I've already chosen it. It's here." Yun Chujo opened the map in her hand and pointed at the Chian mountain range. Everyone's eyes flashed with doubt. "Wasn't that the territory of Blizzard 1st Division?" "I know what your doubts are. This is the territory of Blizzard 1st Division. What we have to do is to replace it. With this, the hurricane hunting squad will rush over to make peace. We will have a legitimate identity. Moreover, the Chian mountain range is easy to defend and hard to attack. We are not afraid of the Blizzard hunting squad's revenge." Yun Chujo explained. Actually, there was another reason that Yun Chujo did not mention. The Chian mountain range stretched for tens of thousands of miles. The east side was in the base region, but the west side was in the level region. This was also to pave the way for them to enter the level region in the future. When everyone heard this, they were naturally very excited. However, the problem came. How could they defeat the Blizzard 1st Division? The Chian mountain range was easy to defend and difficult to attack. Moreover, their strength was slightly weaker than the Blizzard 1st Division. This was too difficult. "I know what you are worried about. However, don't worry. This regiment commander has an insider in the Blizzard 1st Division. You only need to listen to my arrangements," Yun Chujo said with a confident tone. The short fatty and the others thought to themselves, "Little Joe, aren't you an orphan? Where did you get a mole?" However, they were naturally not stupid enough to ask this question. They were just a little uncertain. After Yun Chujo finished mobilizing, she immediately commanded the team to retreat from the raging fire forest. When the second division reacted, the wolf-killing hunting team had already left their territory. They and the other divisions were not on good terms with each other, so it was not good for them to chase after them. They were furious. A few days later, in the evening, Yun Chujo led the wolf-killing hunting squad and approached the territory of Blizzard's 1st Division. "Stay where you are. I'll go and meet up with my insider. If you see any flames, attack immediately. Don't make any mistakes." "Yes." After Yun Chujo finished her instructions, she leaped and disappeared from everyone's sight. Chapter 43:30, He Xinjia's style of doing things. Sha Wuhan and the rest were anxious. This little Jiu was so mysterious. Did she really have someone on the inside? After Yun Chujo reached a safe distance, she transformed into a black-striped poison butterfly and flew towards the Chian mountain range. There was a team of hunters standing guard at the mountain pass. They were sitting lazily on the ground and chatting. "In my opinion, our territory is easy to defend but hard to attack. Unless one of them is blind, they wouldn't attack us." "That's right. The leader is too timid. He sent so many of us to stand guard. If he has the time, he might as well go to the mountains and hunt more origin beasts. When he has the money, he can also buy a few beautiful servants to come back and have fun." "That's right. They are drinking to their heart's content inside. We can only drink the northwest wind here. It's really fucking unfair." Yun Chujo sneered in her heart. The discipline of the 1st Snowstorm Division was so lax that it was easy for them to break in. However, fighting head-on was never her style of doing things. It was best to take them down directly without wasting a single soldier. Thinking of this, Yun Chujo did not stop and flew into the mountains. After flying for a few miles, she saw a man-made open space. There were many wooden houses on it. A group of people were eating and drinking, and the sound of their fists moving could be heard one after another. Yun Chujia's heart skipped a beat. This was her chance. She transformed into a black ant in the grass and crawled toward the wine barrel. As long as she spread her sleep inside, these people would lose their fighting strength and the camp would be in her hands. Just as she was thinking happily, she heard someone say drunkenly, "Where did the ants come from? They are really courting death." Before He Xinjiu could react, she was trampled to pieces by a big foot. After the man finished trampling her, he cursed and poured a pot of wine from the barrel before he left shakily. Taking advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to her, Hei Shinjo transformed into a black ant with abdominal markings again. Before she could move, the man came back and muttered to himself, why did another ant crawl over? It's really courting death. He stomped on Hei Shinjo again and smashed her into pieces. He even moved the wine barrel away. Hei Shinjo was so angry that she almost died. It was obviously impossible for her to poison the man now because the man had placed the wine barrel beside a table. She did not have the chance to do it at all. While the man was worrying, the man who stomped her to death twice before staggered to the forest nearby to relieve himself. Yun Chujo suddenly had an idea. She transformed into a black-striped poisonous butterfly and chased after the man. The man was almost drunk and staggered into the forest. Just as he was about to relieve himself, he was hit hard on the head and turned into a meat patty. He didn't even have the chance to scream. Yun Chujo looked at the big brick that was jumping around with satisfaction. She put the man's body into her storage ring and transformed into the man's appearance. Yun Chujo imitated the man's appearance and staggered back to the table. She took advantage of the fact that no one was paying attention to her and put some sleeping powder in the barrel. To be on the safe side, she also put some powder in the water and soup to ensure that no one escaped. An hour later, everyone collapsed on the ground. Even some of the people who fainted thought that they were just drunk. They did not expect that they would be poisoned. Yun Chujo killed the leader and the deputy leader. Even if something happened, they would not be able to do anything. Chapter 43:31, Was it done by one person? Yun Chujo carried a jug of wine with added ingredients and collected a few dishes. Soon, she arrived at the mountain pass. Brothers, the leader said that you guys have worked hard guarding the mountain pass. He asked me to send some wine and dishes over. You guys eat and drink. I'll keep an eye on them for you. Those people were complaining. They didn't expect that someone would come to deliver the wine and dishes. Moreover, it was an acquaintance, so they naturally didn't have any doubts. They immediately switched the cups and quickly fell to the ground. Yun Chujo sneered and immediately lit the fire. Instantly, the flames soared into the sky. Sha Wuhan and the others saw the flames and thought, did it really work? They didn't have time to think too much. They immediately brought their team and rushed over as fast as possible. Sha Wuhan thought to himself, little Jiu is in danger alone. If we are late, we might be in danger. We must hurry. However, when he arrived with his men, he saw Yun Chujo eating melon seeds with her hands behind her back. There were more than 10 people lying on the ground. Where was the danger? Where was the urgency? Yun Chujo pouted. Second brother, you bring your team here to extinguish the fire and guard the mountain pass. The rest of you, follow me in. Sha Wuhan asked with uncertainty, little Jiu, are we going in so casually? Yun Chujo glanced at him. If we don't go in like this, are we going to beat drums and gongs? Sha Wuhan, he shook his head in his heart. Little Jiu was good in every way, but she was too unstable. Although the people at the mountain pass were controlled by her, there were still hundreds of people inside. It was too reckless to go in so casually. But very soon, Sha Wuhan fed this thought to the dogs. Who could tell him what was going on with the people of Blizzard 1st Division? Why were they all lying dead on the ground? That wasn't right. There were still 3 corpses, and one of them had already been smashed into a meat patty. What was going on? The other members of the wolf-killing hunting group were also dumbfounded. They had thought that this battle would be very intense, that it would be very anxious, and that there would be heavy casualties. However, was it over just like that? It was over before they had even started. Their leader had taken care of it all by himself. Oh God, this was too unbelievable. Yun Chujo coughed a few times before those people came back to their senses. Yun Chujo ordered everyone to tie them up and splash them with cold water to wake them up. The members of Snowstorm's first division were completely dumbfounded. Who were these people in front of them? Why were they all tied up? Weren't they still eating and drinking before? When they saw the cold glints of swords and the 3 corpses in the hands of the wolf-killing hunting squad, they instantly woke up. Yun Chujo placed her hands behind her back and glanced at the captives. TSK, I was just asking if you guys were surprised or not. Were you surprised or not? Those people's hearts were like bleeding dogs. Surprise, my ass. It was obviously a scare, alright? Who are you people? Someone asked with courage. The clothes on these people were not uniform, but they looked strict and disciplined. Who exactly were they? Listen well, don't scare you to death. We are members of the wolf-killing hunting group and the future masters of the Chiyun mountain range. Yun Chujo said with a smile. Those people thought to themselves, wolf-killing hunting group. They had never heard of it. Yun Chujo continued, they'll give you 2 options. Either you die or surrender. Choose for yourself. Those people weren't stupid. Who would want to die if they could live? They immediately expressed their willingness to surrender. You guys are quite sensible. However, our wolf-killing hunting group doesn't want everyone. Big brother, read our rules to them. Yun Chujo said with a smile. Chapter 43-32, Division 9. Sha Wuhan immediately read out the 4 rules. When Sha Wuhan read them out, Yun Chujia's eyes swept over those people, taking in their expressions one by one. She pointed at a random person. Tell me, which one of you has a bad character? Who is usually the most sneaky? If you dare to lie, I will kill you. The person trembled under Yun Chujia's cold gaze and said a few names. Yun Chujo asked a few more people and then killed the people they pointed out together. This is what happens to the black sheep. If you don't follow the rules in the future, you will end up like them. Do you understand? Yen Luojiu shouted sternly. Those people were already scared out of their wits. They didn't dare to have any doubts and immediately stood up. Yun Chujo scattered the remaining people and arranged them into the original 5 groups. In the next few days, Yun Chujo sent people to repair the camp and set up traps at the mountain pass. She also arranged people to guard the cliffs on both sides. She even sent spies outside of Baili. Only then did she feel slightly relieved. This fellow calculated in her heart. Blizzard First Division had to pay a fixed amount of yuan to the headquarters every month. When the day came when no one paid the money, they would probably react. Therefore, before that, she had to spread the news to Hurricane headquarters. As long as they were ordered by the Hurricane hunting squad, the Blizzard hunting squad would not dare to make a big fuss over it. Therefore, Hei Xinjiu sent someone to spread the news in the territory of the Hurricane hunting squad. She believed that the Hurricane hunting squad would soon send someone to make the order. As expected, on the second day after the news was spread, the Hurricane hunting squad sent someone over. The person's attitude was very arrogant and his meaning was very clear. He incorporated the wolf-killing squad and named it the 9th squad of the Hurricane hunting squad. Every month, he had to pay 5 million yuan to the Hurricane hunting squad. Yun Chujo immediately agreed and even gave the person 500,000 yuan. When the person saw that Yun Chujo was generous and tactful, he left with satisfaction. On the other side, after the Blizzard hunting group received the news, they almost died from anger. The first division had the geographical advantage, and they had more people than the other party. How could they be so quietly destroyed? What a fucking loser. However, they did not dare to take revenge because a single move would affect the whole body. If they made a move, the Hurricane hunting squad would definitely not sit idly by. If they were to face off against the Hurricane hunting squad, the Lightning hunting squad might make some small moves. At that time, it would be out of control. After weighing the pros and cons, the Blizzard hunting squad could only swallow their anger. Anyway, there was still a long way to go. There would be plenty of opportunities to take care of the wolf-killing hunting squad in the future. No, it should be called the 9th Division now. Yun Chuzhou was not idle either. On one hand, she was tidying up her discipline. On the other hand, she continued to put medicine into her food. After all, it was not something that could be done overnight. The hunters of the 9th Division also noticed that their cultivation speed had increased a lot recently. Some people who had been stuck at the same level for a long time and could not break through had actually broken through. This was too amazing. Short Fatty and the others took the opportunity to spread the rumor that their 9th Division was under the protection of the Ghost Ancestor. All of this was the blessing of the Ghost Ancestor to Yun Yun. After saying it many times, not to mention those people, even Short Fatty and the others believed it themselves. During this period of time, Short Fatty had also reached the 9th layer of the Origin Realm and successfully summoned a soul bear. Yun Chuzhou looked at the huge bear that Short Fatty had summoned and could not help but feel sour in her heart. Looking at the spirit soul that he had summoned, it looked mighty. It sounded good when it was said, but it was not like her. She had summoned a freaking big brick. Chapter 43-33, 2 slots. Yun Chuzhou had never been stingy with her own people. She had always been generous with her food and clothes, especially her weapons. However, this fellow had never found a suitable weapon. Whether it was the rolling pin, the kitchen knife, or those immortal swords, they were all in her bodice storage ring. She could only buy a treasured sword and make do with it. However, this fellow did have an idea. He wondered how powerful the nameless sword sex swordsmanship would be when it was used with elemental energy. If it was possible, he could teach the sword formation to his subordinates, so that they would have the upper hand when fighting the enemy. Thus, from this day onwards, the people of the 9th Legion saw their regiment commander holding a treasured sword and waving it wildly as if he was possessed. The short and fat man saw Yun Chuzhou brandishing the sword like a madman. He moved closer to Sha Wuhan and said, "Big brother, is little Jiu being possessed?" Sha Wuhan glared at him. "What nonsense are you spouting? I think little Jiu's sword technique is very mystical. I've never seen anyone use it before." The short and fat man shrunk his neck. To be honest, he did not see anything mystical about it. Wasn't she brandishing it wildly like a madman? He did not know that Yun Chuzhou's original sword techniques were supported by spiritual power. But now that she was cultivating elemental power, some of her moves were somewhat nondescript. Therefore, she was constantly trying to modify them. On this day, He Xinjiu was studying sword moves. The person who came to Zhaoan previously came again. Yun Chuzhou could not help but be puzzled. It was not yet time to pay the yuan coins. Why did he come? Although she was puzzled, Yun Chuzhou still greeted him with a smile. Because that person had accepted Yun Chuzhou's bribe, his attitude was much better than the last time. The two of them exchanged pleasantries, and that person explained his purpose of coming. "Commander Zhen, I came here under orders. Our headquarters found a treasure cave. Commander Leng feels that everyone should enjoy the good fortune together, so he gave each of you 2 entry slots. 3 days later, at 3 o'clock in the morning, we will gather at the main group and go treasure hunting together." "Oh right, Commander Zhen, you definitely have to go. Also, pick another subordinate with high elemental energy," that person said with a smile. Yun Chuzhou, on the other hand, sneered in her heart. Share in the good fortune. This was to let these people from the main group become cannon fodder, right? Even so, they couldn't refuse. After all, their current strength couldn't contend with the main group. Thinking of this, she said gratefully, "Leader Leng is so good to us. I don't even know what to say." "So, is your leader Leng married?" "I'm also single." "Do you understand what I mean?" The corner of the man's eyes twitched. "How dare you think of Leader Leng with your honor?" He said tactfully, "Leader Zhen, I have something to do, so I'll leave first. Don't be late." After saying that, the man left in a hurry, as if there was a wolf chasing him. Yun Chujo curled her lips and then gathered Sha Wuhan and the others to discuss this matter. The short fatty thought that this was a good thing, so he said with a big mouth, "Little Jiu, second brother has always been kind to you. You must take second brother with you this time." Yun Chujo looked at him speechlessly and said with a faint smile, "Second brother, do you think this is a good thing?" The short and fat man was stunned. "Yes, isn't it a good thing? That is a treasure cave. Those who see it will have a share. When the time comes, it would be so beautiful if we can get a handy weapon or panacea. Second brother, do you think that if it is really so good, won't the hurricane headquarters fight over it? Would it be our turn?" Yun Chujia's face was full of ridicule. Chapter 43-34, Gifting Ghost Talismans. The short fatty was stunned. He scratched his head and said, "What you said makes sense. Then why does he want 2 people from each subgroup and the one with the highest elemental energy? Naturally, he's a scapegoat. Well, scout ahead and charge ahead. They just need to sit back and enjoy the fruits of their labor. To say the least, even if there's no danger and they successfully obtain the treasure, they'll probably extort it from us. At most, they'll give us some compensation that won't hurt. If you don't know what's good for you, or if you're afraid that the news will leak out, you might just kill them to silence them. Second brother, do you still want to go with me?" The short fatty shook his head like a rattle drum. "Little Joe, I was just joking. You should let someone else go. I still have a lot of things to do." Sha Wuhan and the others couldn't help but laugh when they heard the short fatty. Sha Wuhan said, "Little Joe, since it's so dangerous this time, how about you?" That person had already appointed Yun Chujo to personally lead the team, so no one could go. However, Yun Chujo had to go. Yun Chujia's eyes flashed. "I definitely have to go. Since second brother took the initiative just now, then let second brother go with me." The short and fat man simply wished he could slap himself in the face. He wanted to make you suck in your mouth. He wanted to make you suck in your mouth. This was great. He had to go even if he didn't want to. Sha Wuhan looked at the short and fat man's regretful expression and couldn't help but laugh. "Little Joe, why don't I go with you?" Yun Chujo shook her head. "Big brother, you have to stay here and keep watch. Otherwise, it would be terrible if someone took the opportunity to sneak attack us." Sha Wuhan thought about it and felt that it made sense. There had to be someone in charge at home. Otherwise, it would not be good if there was a fire in the backyard. When the short fatty saw that the matter was settled, he patted his chest and pretended to say, "Don't worry. Leave little Jiu to me. I will protect her well." Sha Wuhan and the others smiled but did not say anything. The short fatty could not help but feel embarrassed. To be honest, he really did not want to go. Yun Chujo laughed lightly. "Second brother, don't worry. I will definitely bring you back safely. Perhaps we can even make a small fortune." The short fatty's smile was uglier than crying. He thought to himself, "I hope so." He did not want to make a fortune. As long as he could keep his little life, it was fine. Before leaving, Yun Chujo called Sha Wuhan to her own wooden house alone and took out a stack of ghost talismans. "Big brother, keep these ghost talismans. If you have no other choice, you can use them to save your life." Sha Wuhan was stunned at first, then he burst into laughter. "Little Joe, are you trying to tell me that this stack of ghost talismans is all drawn by you? Do you think Big Brother is a fool?" Yun Chujo only smiled and didn't say anything. She thought to herself, "Aren't you a fool?" Sha Wuhan saw that Yun Chujo didn't say anything, so he looked down at the ghost talismans in his hand. They looked decent, but what was the use? However, he did not want to hurt Yun Chujo. He said perfunctorily, "All right, I'll keep it then." Yun Chujo was about to take out a ghost talisman to verify when the short and fat man shouted outside, "Little Joe, it's getting late. Hurry up and set off, or you'll be late." Yun Chujo could only say, "Big brother, those are really ghost talismans. If there's any danger while I'm away, remember to use them. Sha Wuhan nodded. Alright, I got it. Hurry up and set off. Be careful. Yun Chujiu thought that he believed her, so she didn't say anything more and left the camp with the short and fat man. Sha Wuhan looked at their backs and shook his head. This little Jiu was really good at bragging. If she had given him one, he might have believed her. How could such a thick stack be all ghost talismans? No matter how good the drawing was, it wasn't really a ghost talisman. Chapter 43-35, The miserable short and fat man. He Xinjiu and the short and fat man were no longer the same as they were in the past. The two of them did not go on foot. Instead, each of them rode a gale ghost horse to the headquarters of the hurricane hunting group. On the way, Yun Chujiu also stuffed a stack of ghost talismans to the short and fat man. The short and fat man's reaction was much more exaggerated than Sha Yuan's. He laughed so hard that he almost fell off his horse. Little Jiu, ha, don't tease me. These are all ghost talismans. Do you think I'm a 3-year-old child? Yun Chujiu glanced at him and said faintly, believe it or not, you'll know when the time comes. The short fatty casually took out a ghost talisman. After injecting elemental energy into it, he threw it to the side and said, since you say so, then I'll try. The short and fat man's words came to an abrupt end because a large fireball suddenly appeared not far from him. As he did not throw it far enough, the edge of the fireball burned his clothes and even his ponytail. The short and fat man rolled off his horse and rolled a few times on the ground, finally extinguishing the fire on his body. However, the gale ghost horse was frightened and jumped out like a madman. Yun Chujiu was completely speechless. The short and fat man was in a terrible state. His clothes were burnt into tatters, and his face was also made black and white. He looked at Yun Chujiu in a daze. It really is a ghost talisman. They are all ghost talismans. Yun Chujiu rolled her eyes and ignored him. The short and fat man took out the remaining ghost talismans from his storage ring and began to count while trembling. 1, 2, 3, 11. Oh my god, I actually have 11 ghost talismans. This fellow thought of the fireball talisman that he had wasted just now and felt so regretful that his intestines were about to turn green. Yun Chujiu could not bear to watch him laugh foolishly and look regretful at times. Second brother, if you continue to dawdle, we really won't be able to make it in time. After Yun Chujiu finished speaking, she ignored the short and fat man and directly rode away. Only then did the short and fat man come back to his senses and chased closely behind him. Little Jiu, wait for second brother. Fortunately, the frightened gale ghost horse had already stopped, so the short fatty got on the horse while panting. Little Jiu, these ghost talismans must be quite expensive, right? Where did you get so much money? The short fatty asked curiously. Yun Chujiu said with a smile, I picked them up. The short fatty really believed it, because these ghost talismans were quite expensive, and even if you had money, you might not be able to buy them. He couldn't help but sigh in his heart. Little Jiu's luck was really too good. He picked up so many ghost talismans in one go, why didn't he pick them up? Yun Chujiu saw that his black and white faces were full of envy, she could not help but sigh. Second brother, can you change your clothes first, and then wipe your face? Also, don't even think about picking them up. 11 ghost talismans are not enough for you to show off. The short and fat man laughed dryly. I'll change. Who would complain about having too many of these? Give me 100 of them and I won't complain about having too many. The short and fat man changed his clothes and wiped his face before continuing on his journey. As the two of them had been delayed for a while on their journey, they were already last when they arrived at the meeting point. The people who arrived first looked at the two of them with all sorts of gazes, especially a few gazes that were rather unfriendly. Yun Chujiu had been doing some intelligence work these days, so she quickly identified them. The 4 people who looked at her with hostile gazes were the people from the 1st and 2nd divisions. Chapter 43-36, The Tree of 1,000 Ghosts. The two people from the second division especially wanted to strangle Yun Chujio and the short fat man to death. However, it was understandable. After all, she had taken away all the people from the raging fire forest. Even though the four people hated Yun Chujio and the short fat man, they only dared to glare at them a few times. They did not dare to say anything, afraid that they would be blamed by the people from the main division. After a moment, an old man walked out with 10 people. One of them, Jing Chen, introduced, "This is our main group's Elder Tan. Elder Tan is in charge of the 1,000 Ghosts cave this time. If anyone dares to cause any trouble, don't blame us for not being polite." The 18 people in the subgroup immediately agreed in a submissive manner. This was because Elder Tan did not need to say anything. Just the pressure that he emitted made them not even dare to raise their heads. Of course, Hei Xinjiu was not included. Although she did not feel uncomfortable, she mimicked the others and did not have any flaws. Elder Tan did not say anything. He only said indifferently, "Let's go." Therefore, the 10 people in the main group escorted Elder Tan to the front while the people in the 9 subgroups followed behind. The group rode for 2 days before they arrived at a valley. After entering the valley, the group arrived at a stone wall. Tan took out a jade token from his storage ring. After biting his index finger, he muttered to himself. Then, the jade token soared into the air and suddenly shot out a dazzling light. After the light weakened slightly, the group found that a dark hole had appeared on the stone wall. Jing Chen glanced at the people in the subgroup and said, "You guys go in first. Well, cover the rear." The people in the subgroup were not fools. They had thought of what Yun Chujio had thought of, but they had no choice but to brace themselves and come. They had come, but no one wanted to die here, so they stared at each other. No one wanted to walk at the front. Jing Chen snorted, "In order, the first group will walk at the front." The two people in the first group turned pale, but they didn't dare to disobey. They could only walk at the front, followed by the second group and the third group. Hei Xinjiu and the short fat man walked at the back. The short fat man couldn't help but let out a sigh of relief. Even if there was danger, the people in front were still holding the fort. Everyone lit up their torches and walked forward slowly. Yun Chujio looked at the stone walls on both sides as she walked. At first, there was nothing on the stone walls and it was no different from a normal stone wall. However, after walking for a distance, not only did the tunnel become able to accommodate 10 people walking side by side, but it was also able to accommodate 10 people. Exquisite and strange murals began to appear on both sides and on the ceiling of the cave. There was no need to explain the exquisiteness. The colors were bright and vivid, and the strange thing was that the main character on the murals was not a person but a tree. How should she put it? This tree was so beautiful that it did not look like a tree. Instead, it looked like a work of art that had been meticulously carved. When Elder Tan saw the tree on the murals, he blurted out excitedly, "The tree of 1,000 ghosts, the tree of 1,000 ghosts. This is indeed the place where the tree of 1,000 ghosts grows." Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. The tree of 1,000 ghosts. Was he talking about this tree? From the looks of it, this Elder Tan was here for this tree. This tree was indeed beautiful, but what was so special about it? Yun Chujio carefully examined the murals on both sides and at the top of the cave. Although the contents of the murals revolved around the tree of 1,000 ghosts, there was nothing substantial about it. It was nothing more than using some exotic flowers, plants, and treasures to set off the tree. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.